Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called A Saint Who Was Adopted by the Grand Duke. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! Have you ever wondered what it's like to be adopted? Most of us are lucky to grow up with our biological parents, but the truth is, some adopted kids are showered with more love and care than they might have received from their own parents. In this fantasy novel, Saint Dinah, the female protagonist who is suffering from constant abuse and torture, is being captivated for merely being a saint. Then she finds herself back in the time before the tragic events unfolded. Because of this severe pain and exhaustion for her countless regressions, she decides to give up and begs to die. Just when she's near the brink of giving up, a twist of fate unfolds as Archduke Tercia enters the story, extending a surprising offer to become his adopted daughter. Let's immerse ourselves into this fantasy world to witness the protagonist's journey of resilience in the midst of adversity as she navigates her new life with self-discovery and new experiences. On a glitzy, gloomy night in the temple, as three saints make their way toward what appears to be a jail, Dinah, a prisoner, appears to be in great discomfort as she has linen straps over her lips, and both wrists are bound in a magic chain. Based on her appearance, she looks deeply helpless, from her hair so messed up to her clothes full of scratches and her skin covered with bruises. What a painful sight! Saint Raphael approaches Dinah with her hair in braids and asks for her help. She has a look of disappointment in her eyes, which are like daggers aimed directly at Dinah. Meanwhile, the horror in Dinah's eyes immediately flashes as she realizes what she means by those threatening eyes. Turns out she's dismayed by the smaller amount of blood she obtained and threatens to cut her skin deeper for more. She's acting like a vampire who's hungry for blood. Without warning, Khalid, the male saint, drops to his knees and offers to do the honor of cutting off the captive's hand to draw more blood. Dinah's eyes briefly flash with horror as she realizes that Khalid has betrayed her. The pain Dinah experiences is terrible. With success, Saint Raphael sips the blood that Khalid took from Dinah's hand. Saint Raphael feels Dinah's blood stream down her throat, and she feels the immense holy power. As soon as she finally gets what she desires, she leaves, leaving Dinah in excruciating pain. In the Austin Empire, under the system of gods, the authority of saints and emperors was balanced. During a time of destruction and epidemics, the world saw no hope. However, Governor Espithos' presence ignited hope, leading to a golden age of over 100 years of peace and light, with a temple dedicated to a saint. This golden age symbolized the power of the saints. Returning to the present, three female servants enter the cell where Dinah is tied up. One of them is Annie, a newbie who can't believe what she sees in front of her. The moment hers and Dinah's eyes meet, Dinah grabs this opportunity to speak to her through her head, convincing her to free her out. Annie walks closer, then unties the strap in Dinah's mouth. Then the next thing they know, she bites her tongue to death. It is her 14th death. A lonely and pathetic death. Once again, Dinah finds herself back to the time before the tragic events. Her 15th regression. How pathetic, right? The young Raphael calls her in a concerned voice upon seeing her in a worse state, but her words only saddens Dinah. Remembering how she's being treated by Raphael every time, it leads her to end her life due to intense torture. The young Raphael calls her a friend, when in fact, soon enough, she will just deny their friendship while flashing those evil eyes of hers. In her previous lives, she remembers how she begged for her life in front of Raphael, who seemed to be unbothered by her pleading expression. She couldn't believe it when Raphael admitted that she never thought of Dinah as a friend. Surprised, tears rolled down Dinah's face as soon as she heard those painful words that felt like daggers stabbing on her chest. The worst betrayal a friend could ever feel. The young Raphael continues to comfort Dinah and convinces her to take a break. Everyone in the temple is bewildered when they discover that Raphael is talking to someone who is on a different level compared to her. Then, a priestess who seems annoyed by her presence scolds her. The whispers of insults echo throughout the entire palace as Dinah proceeds to enter inside her room. In full agony and exhaustion, she shows a feeling of distress as she gasps at the reality of coming back to life. Dinah is too tired to repeat the devastation all over again when all she wants is death. Upon checking her diary, she discovers that she has returned to the year 381, when on her previous returns, she always came back every year in 382. Has something changed? Or perhaps this might be her last regression? She repeatedly reminds herself that escaping is impossible, and despite multiple attempts, she remains trapped in a hellish fate. So she silently pleads with tears rolling down her face while carrying a knife to cut herself. But to her disappointment, the wound once again heals by itself because of her sacred power. Dinah rushes outside and stands in front of the governor's statue. This brings her to the past when she met the priest of the temple while seeking food. He offered her a room to stay, and she no longer starved at every meal. Dinah was beyond grateful because the room was the first place she felt warmth, but in the end, she lost everything. Back in the present, she questions the statue in front of her as to why she was given holy power. She begs for it to be taken away from her. Then all of a sudden, hope appears in her eyes as she remembers that there's a celebration at that time of the year. Every year, the temple festival is held, and Dinah hatches an idea to attend because the Archduke de Haine Teresia, a deranged assassin obsessed with war and slaughter, is expected to be present. She anticipates facing execution if she attempts to attack someone of his caliber. This will be her chance to die. Due to the healing effects of the holy power, Dinah cannot die alone. She must face death at the hands of the monstrous Archduke. With a desperate look, she begins to plan in her mind when suddenly, a male with a charming smile calls her name. He is Khalid, the son of a famous aristocrat and everyone's favorite. Despite liking him, Dinah's affection fades as she recalls how Khalid became the Holy Knight of Raffian and betrayed her by not saving her from the countless repeated hells. He notices her reaction and becomes confused as Dinah leaves him wondering. Meanwhile, Ben Teresia's appearance captivates the maid's attention. With a seductive look, he can entice anyone he meets. Possessing extensive knowledge, he has been by the Archduke's side for 10 years. In the Archduke's abode, he tries to convince Archduke de Haine Teresia about the outfit he's wearing. But no matter how hard he tries, the Highness is stubborn enough to stick with the black outfit despite the event's white theme. Before the two of them head out, two cheerful kids call out to them. Judy Teresia and Dennis Teresia are twins, the Archduke's children. The Archduke promises to buy a bunch of things when he returns, asking for their wishes. Dennis wants a limited edition Voice of the Ruler, but surprisingly, his brother Judy wishes for a little sister. Judy is obviously the nerdy type. All of them are left dumbfounded by Judy's sudden outburst. He is jealous because he's the only one who doesn't have a younger sister among his friends. Stressed, the Archduke thinks his son is just pulling a prank, but this just makes Judy sulk. Archduke Teresia tries to comfort his son and explains to him why it's impossible for him to have a little sister since they don't have a mother. Well, he has a point. How could you produce a child without a partner, right? Instead, he promises to give him a maid of his son's age, but not a sister. However, Dennis suggests a way, leaving his dad doomed with no choice. What's his suggestion? Well, an adoption. While riding a carriage, Ben and the Archduke are talking about Judy's special request a while ago. The Archduke decides to reconsider his son's request, since he has been used to giving the kids all they wanted so that they do not feel their mother's absence. He had no idea, though, that his children were wary of everything, since they were raised without any attachment because their father's love had given them worldly possessions, but never the warmth of his affection. He couldn't even give them his whole attention, so how could he grant them a sister? Such material things are nothing compared to a family's bond. But thinking positively, bringing a good child could be an opportunity to teach the twins about bonds. So with firmness in his voice, the Archduke finally decides to find a place to adopt a child. Moving on to the temple, the festival begins. All of the people in higher positions are seated far beyond Dinah's reach, including the Archduke. It's almost impossible to talk to him, let alone assassinate him. Dinah's plans are interrupted by a noble's sudden command. She tries to refuse, but the noble only gets aggressive in return. In the past, she would have done what she was told without saying anything, but this time, she's desperate enough to refuse their order. All of the insults come out of the noble's mouth, leaving Dinah in despair since she doesn't want to become an orphan. Later on, she notices that the Duke is no longer in his chair. She becomes uneasy, not because of the continuous insults from the nobles, but the fear of losing sight of the Duke. These nobles are getting on my nerves. To prevent Dinah from moving anywhere, one of them takes hold of her arm. The priestesses then arrive to scold them, but Dinah feels forced to follow her orders. She can't seem to find the Duke anywhere, so she starts to get anxious that he could be leaving the temple. She then makes the decision to go seek him outside the temple, and when she does, she spots the Duke standing next to two of his guards. She feels more hopeful, but her self-doubt grows. She tries to call him out of desperation, but her expression is filled with terror. The black aura emanating from the Archduke smacks of chaos and authority as he confronts her. She begs to speak with him for a little while, but her mind is already debating whether to approach him. Then, she grabs her knife and proceeds to attack him, but as expected, the Duke is too quick and foils the plot. With a knife aimed at her, he demands as to who sent her while Dinah looks on in terror. Life flashes in front of Dinah, and she recalls how her fate is eternal and her life of misery repeats because finally the time has come for her death. Or as she thought. The knife points directly at her, but instead of fear, there's eagerness in her eyes. The thought of death excites her. This makes the Duke confused, seeing a child wanting to be killed. It's weird, but she's that desperate. She then grabs his hand holding the knife to proceed cutting her neck. But once again, disappointment lingers as she realizes that she's still alive. Meanwhile, the Duke remains curious as to who sent her that she's willing to risk her life. He threatens to kill her if she won't say a word. So as someone who wants to die, Dinah remains silent. The Duke, being impatient, commands his guards to bring her back to the temple, but this only makes Dinah tremble in fear. She begs him to never return her and just to kill her instead. She starts bursting into tears, looking so helpless with desperation and fear in her eyes. Dinah looks so awful, poor thing. The Duke feels intrigued and commands the guards to let her go. He then approaches the poor girl and asks about her age, in which she responds. Dinah is a 12-year-old girl with no parents and living a hellish life. He comes closer and fixes the hair covering her pleading eyes. All of a sudden, he gives her a choice to be his daughter if she really doesn't want to go back to the temple. In tears, Dinah becomes speechless. She wonders how someone can adopt an orphan like her, and as she finds out, it's quite unbelievable. As it happens, the Duke has been seeking for a child to adopt, and he appears to think Dinah is a good fit. She will then become the noblest child. Hearing these words seem like music to her ears. Her hope against the cruelty of the temple. Because this is her only chance to escape her terrible destiny, she consents to let him adopt her. Meanwhile, the Duke recalls how she behaved some time ago, as he is glancing at his helpless child. When he addresses her by name, Dinah pauses, appreciating that someone is interested in knowing her name when no one has ever asked before. Weirdly enough, Dinah thinks of the Duke's eerie yet sincere smile as being affectionate. To finish the adoption process, it will take 5 days. Only then she'd be free and can die. The adoption procedure for Dinah commences, and the Duke initiates a conversation with the 2 temple priests. Upon realizing that the child the Duke wishes to adopt is an orphan living in a slum, the 2 priests make sure the Duke does not select the least desirable option and instead attempt to present a more qualified one. Their response triggers the Duke's anger, and he threatens to cut their tongues off if they continue to oppose his choice. Noticing the escalating anger from His Highness, Ben immediately steps forward to proceed with bribing the 2 greedy priests. How disgusting! Ben and the Duke leave the temple, leaving the greedy priests in great delight. It's supposed to be a donation, but since they're hungry for money, the 2 priests decide to split it in half for them to share instead of donating it to the temple. Meanwhile, Dinah's wound from her encounter with the Duke is finally healed. She's in her room as she begins to discern the reality of her not being able to leave because of her power. Everything just seems so unreal, and expecting anything might hurt her in the end. She becomes increasingly concerned as she considers how the Archduke's kids, who are the noblest children, who would grow up to be prejudiced like other children of great status. She already anticipates being abused due to her status as an orphan. Dinah, poor little thing. It doesn't matter that they abused her, though. All she ever wanted was a means to die. The day comes when Dinah is about to leave the temple. The priestess mentions reminders. She emphasizes how Dinah has to live on her own the moment the Duke decides to abandon her since she no longer belongs to the temple. Along the way, they happen to cross paths with Raffian, who seems confused about the early stroll of the 2. Raffian's jolly smile slowly fades as soon as she hears about Dinah going to the Archduke's house. I don't know if it's jealousy or greed. Either way, she's such a brat. Raffian proceeds to grab Dinah and asks the priestess for permission to bid her goodbye. She then brings Dinah somewhere in the place with full curiosity, provoking the poor girl with her questions. She's showing her true colors already? With her actions, she no longer pretends to be a fake and abusive friend. Before, she used to manipulate Dinah in order for her to stay in the temple, but Dinah will no longer be enticed by her pretension. Dinah's fist clenches when she remembers how Raffian pushes her into this hellish life, yet acts as a friend. Before they part ways, Dinah gives her a farewell gift. everything she says contradicts her own desires, and that is for Raffian to be immersed in great despair. And we will surely witness Raffian's downfall. A sudden flashback occurs at the time when Irene, the Duke's wife, was staring at the bright stars in the sky. The mesmerizing stars catched her attention, and she mentioned how she wanted to name her daughter after a star. Going back to the present, Dinah finally steps out from the door of the place where her hellish fate resides. In that temple, she has been abandoned and betrayed multiple times in every life. A life that starts all over again when she dies, where the same pain is repeated. But finally, this time she will no longer be trapped in that same temple that torments her precious life for several years. Minutes after walking, Ben welcomes her while standing beside a luxury wagon. There's an amusement in her eyes as she's getting the royal treatment for the first time. Of course, Dinah isn't used to this kind of treatment, but Ben reminds her that she will be the only daughter of the Archduke, so her behavior is a family honor. By that, everything sinks in, including the fact that she's an adopted daughter of the Archduke. She enters the wagon, and the presence of the Duke welcomes her. However, Dinah is seated far away, so this makes him wonder if she's uncomfortable. Then his eyes gaze on the old bag she brought. Dinah admits that it's all that she has, so the Duke decides to buy her more things in the future. She kindly refuses his offer, so he thinks that maybe she'll become more comfortable if she asks for what she wants, just like Judy, since he doesn't know what to give her. But there's one thing that he wants to give her: a name. Reminiscing about the past conversation with his wife, he is reminded that if ever they'd be blessed by a daughter, she'd name her Aster, meaning a child who shines like stars. No, such a beautiful name for a pretty girl. She is reluctant to accept it at first, finding it ironic that she has that name given when she has spent her whole existence in the dark. However, eventually she comes to appreciate its lovely meaning. Later on, Dinah falls asleep, and upon looking at her, the Duke recalls those wary eyes when they first met, but now she's sleeping soundly. The Duke notices that her clothes are all messed up. Even a rug seems far better than her clothes. He clenches his fists, blaming the corrupt priests at the temple for treating this girl poorly. And so, the Duke orders Ben to go to Udar, a branded clothing store. In her dream, Aster and a young boy were seated beneath a tree. They started talking when he asked her about her interactions with the Grand Duke. As their talk drew closer, he also expressed concern for her well-being. However, the Grand Duke had just woken her up. Daewin informs her that they are going to the Tercia territory to buy new clothes. He declares that she needs to have a wider variety of clothing for the future. After a while, they arrive at the clothing store. Aster is accompanied by Daewin and Ben. The store's owner, Christian, welcomes them as they arrive. Daewin also seizes the chance to advise the woman on Aster's wardrobe choices. Christian observes that Aster is uncomfortable, so she refrains from mentioning anything about her appearance that would upset her. Christian leans towards Aster, asking about her name, but before Aster can respond, Daewin intervenes and informs Christian of her new name, Aster. When Daewin looks at Aster with a considerate gesture, he assures that they will wait for her. He encourages Aster to take her time and choose the clothes that she wants. Following Christian's directions, Aster is led to a room inside the store and told to wait. She is then given a catalog and persuaded to choose her favorite dresses. But before that, she asks if it's okay to sit on an expensive chair, to which Christian responds affirmatively, making her realize that she's no longer in the temple and her life is about to change. No, baby girl, you'll never go back to that place because we will protect you at all costs. Christian observes Aster with curiosity and apprehension about strange circumstances. However, Aster clings to the catalog that she hasn't yet opened. Nevertheless, Christian makes the decision to give Aster the selected clothing. When Aster views the clothes, she makes an awestruck reaction. Christian proudly shows the store's unique creations as they try with different styles. Aster weighs her options after thinking about the clothing options. However, Christian notices Aster's little face and gives her astute advice on what style would work best. As Christian works her magic on Aster, she says that Aster need not worry about anything and should leave everything to her. When they're done, Aster seeks the opinion of Daewin about her appearance. Daewin, on the other hand, upon seeing Aster, is immediately struck by her resemblance to Irene and what their daughter would look like if they had one. He even claims that the dress that Aster wears suits her perfectly. I agree, she looks really cute, but the first time I saw Irene reminded me of Aster too. The simple act of complimenting the dress makes her happy. Daewin tells Christian if she has other sizes to fit for Aster, to which she responds positively. Aster then tries on another dress, and her attractiveness becomes even more radiant. Daewon turns to Ben and tells him to go get the dresses that Aster has tried on. Then he tells Christian to throw away Aster's old clothes as they prepare to leave. Meanwhile, Aster can't believe it, and it still feels like a dream to her. As soon as they arrive at the mansion, Daewon tells Aster that it will be her new home. But Aster has a bad feeling about the Duke's twin sons. As soon as they arrive at the mansion, they are greeted by the staff, and Delbert feels nervous and unprepared for the presence of many people. As Delbert conveys Daewon's request for the twins to come downstairs, Judy and Dennis arrive and address Daewon as Dad. Judy asks about Aster, jokingly calling her a brat after noticing her by Daewon's side. Dennis and Aster exchange meaningful looks during the conversation, and Daewon tells the twins that Aster is now their sister. As the news sinks in, Judy merely asks if she's younger than him. Judy looks across to Daewon and wonders how he got Aster so fast. Dennis replies that Aster has been adopted by their father and playfully pinches Judy, calling him an idiot. She then informs Judy that she was from the temple when he asked her to introduce herself. Judy is shocked by her statement and wonders if Aster had really been hauled out of the temple. But Daewon intervenes, threatening to call his tutor over his actions. After what he heard from his father, Judy decides to leave and assures Aster that they will meet later. However, Daewon stops Judy and instructs him to accompany Aster around the mansion. Judy seemingly counters that he has plans with his friends and gives Dennis the task of giving Aster a tour. However, Judy learns that Dennis is missing and has no choice but to take on the task himself. Afterward, Judy escorts Aster around the mansion. While roaming around, she is struck by the mansion's immense size, but Judy is annoyed by Daewon's request to guide her. On the other hand, her appearance recalls intriguingly of his mother, Irene. Aster pauses abruptly, clearly drawn to one particular chamber, and seems intrigued by it. As she looks at the room, he takes a peek at Aster's curiosity. Aster responds that she will choose another one if she can't use it. There seems no problem to that, but Judy uses this room to sneak out of the mansion. Nevertheless, after a brief hesitation, he allows her to choose the room on one condition. She can use it if she can accompany him to his friend Sebastian, to which she agrees positively. As they continue their tour, they encounter Delbert, saying Daewon wants to meet Aster. A moment later, Aster finds herself seated at a table where her attention is drawn by the delicious foods in front of her. On the other hand, Daewon also ponders if she doesn't like cookies since she isn't touching any of them. Daewon looks so simple yet hot with his hair down. If Aster wants a mother, I swear I'd be the first to volunteer. After signing the document, Daewon then extends her sincere congratulations to Aster on becoming a member of the Tercia family. We're really happy for you, Aster. Noticing her discontent, he gracefully offers her a cookie, gently feeding it to her in an attempt to make her feel at ease. Aster's initial hesitation gives way to a genuine smile as she discovers the tasty treat. Assuring her of his commitment to bringing happiness into her life, he promises that she will never lack anything. That night, Delbert enters the room, announcing that Aster has drifted off to sleep. Seizing the moment with her asleep, he decides to convene a family meeting with the twins. Morning arrives and Aster awakens from her slumber, greeted by the gentle embrace of sunlight. Shortly after, Dorothy, the maid, enters her room. Aster responds politely, confirming that she had slept well. With breakfast approaching, Dorothy offers to help her get ready. Aster graciously accepts the offer, expressing her thanks for Dorothy's kindness. Upon reaching the dining table, Aster notices her tableware is missing, causing a slight disappointment. Just then, Dennis approaches her warmly, inviting her to join them and assuring her that her plates will be ready soon. His words lift her spirits. While at the table, Judy's absence becomes apparent, and Dennis speculates that Judy might have overslept. As they settle in, he engages with Aster, confirming her name, to which she responds positively. I like Dennis right now. He's not as cold as when he first met her. Dennis requests Delbert to pour water for Aster and explains his own morning ritual of drinking water for better blood circulation. He encourages her to establish a morning routine for a healthier start to the day. However, she senses a certain distance from Dennis, realizing that he isn't particularly fond of her. So his unexpected initiation of conversation catches her off guard. On the other hand, Dennis recalls his father's words during a family meeting, emphasizing that it doesn't matter where Aster came from, and they shouldn't tease or mistreat her. Daewon adds that from then on, they should protect Aster as they are now a family. Dennis returns to his senses, considering his father's concern towards Aster. Meanwhile, Aster remarks how tasty the water is since she couldn't drink clean water at the temple. Daewon enters the dining room and warmly greets Aster and Dennis. However, Aster addresses him as Lord, which kinda annoys him. Despite this, he remains patient towards her. Thrilled to be at the table with delicious food, Aster struggles with utensils. Dennis notices and takes the lead, teaching her how to use them, and she quickly catches up with it. The sight puts Daewon at ease regarding Dennis's behavior towards her. After Delbert informs Aster of Judy's arranged meeting in the Havel Garden, she agrees to follow soon. Intrigued by Aster's happiness, Dorothy asks to join, and they head to the beautiful garden. Dorothy, considerate as ever, mentions she prepared a lunchbox. Seated upon a bench, they await Judy's arrival. Despite Aster's anticipation, Judy doesn't show up. Dorothy considers suggesting they return home due to the delay, but Aster insists on waiting. Poor Aster, she's been waiting for a while now. Just then, a young boy arrives, boldly approaching Dorothy and Aster. With a direct question, he asks Aster if she's Judy's younger sister, catching her off guard with the unexpected situation. Aster stammers, questioning Sebastian's identity. In response, he becomes furious, gripping her wrist, insinuating that acknowledging her as Judy's sister might hurt his pride. Despite his hold, she quickly frees herself. Then, he makes an offensive proposition, asking her to pay and offering to double it. What does he mean to pay her double? Does he think that Aster's a servant? Aster stays quiet, so Dorothy steps in, warning Sebastian to stop acting badly or she'll report him. He doesn't believe Aster is Judy's sister because they look different, and he says mean things. Despite Dorothy trying to help, he keeps being mean and leaves. Aster shares with Dorothy how hard it is for her to stand up to Sebastian. Their talk is interrupted by Happy, a dog, making the situation lighter. Meanwhile, Judy is disappointed that the talking bird didn't show up. To be sure if Aster might have left, he goes to the garden. There, he finds Aster and Dorothy talking happily with Happy. He angrily asks Aster why she stayed all day and waited for him. I think it must be the other way around since he suggested meeting her at the garden. Yet swiftly, his frustration transforms, evolving from disappointment to genuine concern. In response to his inquiry, Aster reassures him that his delayed arrival didn't bother her. Aster finds herself taken aback when Judy unexpectedly lifts her onto his back. Initially uncertain, she addresses him as master, but Judy's comforting words quickly ease her apprehension. He suggests adopting the term brother, emphasizing their unique sibling connection. During their return to the mansion, Judy extends an apology for his tardiness, vowing to be more considerate in the future. In turn, Aster offers her own apology, content with the companionship she's found in him. In this moment, she senses a newfound ally in Judy. With a stern tone, Judy advises Aster to place more value on her time and refrain from finding waiting enjoyable. He makes a solemn promise to ensure that no one will make her wait without facing consequences. As they reach the mansion, Delbert notices Judy carrying Aster and rushes to offer assistance. However, Judy stands firm, insisting on keeping her on his back. Meanwhile, Dennis observes these interactions, his expressions revealing a hint of jealousy as he witnesses the growing closeness between Judy and Aster. He's somehow distant towards all of them. I hope he'll grow closer to them too. Once again, Aster dreams of the young boy who's relieved of her improving fever and confesses his deep concern for her illness. Curiosity lingers about the boy, but she abruptly wakes up from her dream. I wonder if this boy is a live character in the novel or just someone in her dream. Upon opening her eyes, the Grand Duke and others are in her room, waiting for her to wake up. Judy asks if she recognizes him, mentioning her fever after returning from the garden and 2 days of unconsciousness. Suddenly, the idea of a saint's awakening crosses her mind. Gathering her thoughts, Aster apologizes to Daewon and Judy. Daewon inquires about her health, assuring her that her fever has lowered. Daewon suggests seeking medical assistance due to her long journey, as Judy offers a teddy bear for comfort. Aster contemplates her illness in connection to the saint's awakening and the boy's impact on her well-being. Dorothy requests to enter Aster's room with the doctor, who conducts an examination. Daewon, observing her vitality reduction, expresses concern. During the assessment, Aster and the doctor share an intense gaze. Does this guy know something? The doctor notes no abnormalities, but mentions Aster's diminished energy, advising Daewon to take care of her. After the doctor leaves, Aster recalls her past experiences at the temple where she faced scornful looks. She apologizes to Daewon, but he reassures her of her well-being in return, emphasizing that they're now a family. Tears are welling up in her eyes, experiencing this kind of warmth like never before. Hours later, Daewon attends to his responsibilities, ensuring his children's safety. Dorothy interrupts him with Ben, delivering news that Aster's condition is getting worse. Daewon rushes to Aster's room, visibly concerned. Aster, with a trembling voice, reveals an overwhelming fear, pleading for an end to her suffering by ending her life. The room falls into heavy silence, leaving everyone shocked. It must be a trauma response or something. In the midst of the heavy rainfall, Rafian sensed Dinah, Aster's real name, and sought her assistance to find relaxation, while Dinah pleaded for her life. Just then, Daewon gently wakes up his daughter to her normal state, asking if she recognizes her surroundings. Initially confused, she wonders if she's still at the shrine, but Daewon reassures her that she's in the Grand Duke's mansion. Regaining composure, Aster apologizes for her behavior, revealing her distressing experiences with Rafian on rainy days. Daewon interrupts, urging her to relax. Curious and concerned about Rafian, Daewon asks Ben about her identity and the traumatic events at the shrine. He then lifts Aster and takes her to bed, promising to stay by her side until the thunderstorms subside. In bed, Daewon discusses past troubles in the story, and Aster doesn't provide detailed answers. He inquires about her fear of thunder, and she admits it had been a long-standing fear. Daewon comforts her, assuring that the mansion is safe and vowing to protect her, instilling a sense of security. Suddenly, Judy visits Aster's room, noticing Daewon's presence. Concerned about her red eyes, Judy suggests sleeping with her until she overcomes her fear of rain. Later, Daewon, who remains dissatisfied and reveals that Aster suffered abuse during her time at the shrine, seeks information about the shrine, particularly about Rafian. She's the reason for Aster's fear. She must be punished. When morning arises, Aster wakes up with a heartwarming sight of Daewon and Judy sleeping beside her. Aw, they really look like a family now. But I see there's still space beside Daewon, so might as well occupy it, right? Just kidding. Days later, Aster observes that Daewon and Judy avoid discussing her fear, likely to spare her from distressing memories. In the main hall, she encounters Dennis reading a book. Intrigued, she inquires about his love for books, and he explains that knowledge empowers him. Their conversation deepens, leading to Dennis inviting Aster for a walk in the garden. As they stroll, Aster realizes the unfamiliar path and admits it's her first time taking it. Dennis stops and apologizes, revealing that the walk from the garden was a ruse. Unlike his brother, he struggles to accept Aster and doesn't consider her his sister, prompting him to delve into her true identity. Oh, I take back my word. Last he was somewhat jealous, but now he's being doubtful. He's so hard to read. In the quietude of the night, Dennis immerses himself in the pages of a book until the hours grow late, signaling it's time to retire. As he traverses the dimly lit corridors toward his chamber, he glimpses Judy wandering pensively. An air of curiosity engulfs him, compelling Dennis to trail Judy, his footsteps echoing in the silent castle. His clandestine journey leads them to Aster's chamber, where Dennis beholds a tranquil scene. The moonlight softly caresses the room, revealing his father and brother serenely asleep alongside Aster. In that poignant moment, Dennis finds himself entangled in contemplation, unraveling the enigma that is Aster. The following day, Dennis uncovers a hidden passage, a portal to a secluded garden where secrets whisper in the rustling leaves. With a mischievous glint in his eye, Dennis proposes utilizing his clandestine pathway for covert escapades. He informs Aster of his impending errands in the village and suggests they embark on this adventure together. Without a second thought, Aster agrees, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. As they emerge on the other side of the clandestine tunnel, Dennis decides to guide Aster towards the vibrant tapestry of life in the nearby village. The lively hustle and bustle captivate Aster's senses, but Dennis, with a pensive demeanor, can't escape the echo of his father's encounter with Aster at the shrine. In a sudden turn, Dennis reveals his intent to leave momentarily for personal obligations. Despite Aster's eagerness to accompany him, Dennis declines, assuring her a swift return. With that promise hanging in the air, Dennis embarks on his journey, leaving Aster to contemplate the mysteries of the village with a lot of strangers around. Is he planning to leave her behind? What if something bad happens to her? In Dennis's absence, a torrent of thoughts flood Aster's mind, weaving a narrative of abandonment and betrayal. She contemplates the intricate web of his intentions, suspecting a premeditated plan to leave her stranded. Lost in the labyrinth of her reflections, her focus abruptly shifts as two men enter her sphere of awareness. Oh no, Dennis isn't around! She's in danger! Their scrutiny fixates on her attire, prompting them to assume her noble lineage. With no visible bodyguards, they misconstrue her vulnerability. However, the unpredictable resounds as Aster utters a startling declaration, insisting on her own demise, rendering their plans futile. In a serendipitous twist, Dennis returns, offering tardy apologies and questioning Aster about her acquaintance with the men. Unbeknownst to them, the unexpected declaration has shifted the dynamics. The men, now aware of Dennis's identity, recoil at the realization that they have trifled with the Tercia family. Faced with the imminent threat, the men attempt to retreat, feebly asserting that their prior statements were mere jests. Dennis, still seething with anger and concern, redirects his focus to Aster. He demands an explanation, seeking clarity on her impulsive actions and the risks she took in his absence. How rude! If you hadn't left her, these two men would not have almost exploited her. Dennis fell into silence after inquiring about Aster's thoughts, then suddenly admitted to deliberately leaving her alone. It turns out Dennis had been keeping an eye on Aster, curious about how she'd react to solitude. His intention was to unveil her true self by intentionally leaving her be. Aster, initially thinking he harbored resentment, was surprised when Dennis explained that he never wished any harm upon her. This revelation sparked Aster's curiosity about Dennis, as he demonstrated care without explicitly expressing his feelings. Is this what we call a nonchalant person? Dennis extends an apology to Aster for his testing her and offers his hand to return home. Aster, surprised and delighted, realizes that Dennis does see her as a sibling and gladly accepts his hand. On a bright blue day in the castle, the family gathers for breakfast. The Grand Duke addresses Dennis's recent recklessness, to which Dennis admits fault and offers his sincere apologies. The fact that Dennis owns up to his mistake makes him a good person. The Grand Duke appreciates Dennis's honesty and tells the twins that they should treat Aster as their own sister. Since the twins' birthday is coming up, the Grand Duke asks for their opinion about what they want on their birthday. Judy wants to have a masquerade party, while Dennis wants to have a book discussion. I don't know how the Grand Duke manages to deal with the twins with their opposite interests. However, the Grand Duke has something in his mind. He takes none of the twins' requests, but rather he wants to introduce Aster to the people since she's already part of the family. Aster seems kinda down since she is planning on disappearing in silence without anyone noticing her. But the Grand Duke tells her that he plans to call the best tutors to teach her about proper etiquette and hopes that it would be a great memory to her. In the Grand Duke's office, his assistant announced that they found tutors for Aster. Talented and genius tutors who only accept one student per year. The Grand Duke tells his assistant that they'll pay 3 times the amount just to tutor Aster. Ben notices that everything related to Aster, Daewin never hesitates to spend money on. The assistant also mentions about the abuse in the temple, but to no luck. There are no incidents that have happened. However, the assistant finds a student named Raven, the Lady of Duke Breon, who is said to be the saint in the future. Also, if there are any abuses in the temple, it would be difficult to find out. The Grand Duke tells the assistant to keep investigating. He stood up and gazed out through the window, disappointed that he didn't catch the culprit as to why Aster is acting suicidal, and wondering what exactly happened to her in the temple. It's a lovely morning. Aster is in her room mending with crayons and paper without being worried. She can use expensive paper as much as she wants. How wonderful! This is what she truly deserves as a child. I'm so happy for her. While Aster is drawing, Dorothy goes up to her to check her. Dorothy is surprised about what she sees. Aster draws her. Aster gives her drawing as a present since Dorothy always helps her. Dorothy, being overwhelmed that Aster can draw, wants to tell the Grand Duke about Aster's talent and further compliments her work. No, she's not only cute but also talented. Dorothy, being noisy, catches the attention of Dennis, who went to Aster's room to investigate what happened. Dennis is annoyed when he arrives at Aster's room, which he addresses why Aster calls Judy brother but not him. Aster hesitates to tell Dennis at first, but when she tries, Dennis is flattered about what he heard and proceeds to ask Aster what books she wants to read. Dennis notices that Aster draws something which he requests Aster to draw him, which she refuses since she's not confident about her talent. Dorothy tells Aster to be confident, so Aster accepts Dennis's request. After a while, Aster puts so much concentration on her drawing while Dennis reads his books. Dennis steals a gaze on Aster when he notices that Aster's eyes turn to gold-like color, which Aster notices that Dennis is looking at her. Aster finishes her drawing, which makes Dennis flabbergasted since she has a talent that's worth bragging about. Dennis is so proud of Aster about her talent. All of a sudden, he calls his assistant, Delbert, to brag about his sister's work. For the first time, Aster hears compliments about her talent, and she'd like to receive more of it in the future. I hope she'll gradually overcome her traumas. There's so much more in life, and she deserves all of it. At that moment, Delbert, the butler, brings a message to the Grand Duke concerning the training of his army. Daewon expresses dissatisfaction as he believes everyone is too relaxed, emphasizing the importance of being prepared for war at all times, given the uncertainty of when it might strike. The Grand Duke inquires about Aster, and Delbert informs him that she's in the garden, engrossed in a drawing. Intrigued, the Grand Duke expresses his desire to have his portrait drawn by Aster as well. The Grand Duke strolls through his beautiful garden, accompanied by Delbert. As they walk, the Grand Duke notices Aster deeply engrossed in her drawing, showcasing a high level of concentration. Aster is focused on her drawing. She didn't even notice that the Grand Duke and Delbert are coming to see her. How cute. After a while, Aster contemplates what to draw when she's suddenly taken aback to find the Grand Duke at her side, his presence having gone unnoticed until that moment. Inquisitive, Aster asks when he arrived, and he promptly responds that he has been there for a short while, having known that Aster enjoys drawing in the garden. Expressing a desire to be drawn by Aster, the Grand Duke playfully teases her. Despite his request, Aster remains hesitant, lacking confidence in her artistic abilities. The Grand Duke attempts to convince her to draw a portrait of him, jokingly suggesting that if she refuses, he might seek out another artist for the task. Even the most dangerous person can handle himself well in front of the child without resorting to violence. He's such a good daddy. Aster, feeling a sense of possession, is determined to draw a portrait of the Grand Duke. Delbert, recalling that the Grand Duke generally avoids having his portrait done, makes a mental note of this exception specifically made for Aster. The Grand Duke persists, asking Aster if she truly wants to draw him. Though hesitant, Aster eventually accepts his request. As they are engrossed in their artistic endeavor, Pen, another man, walks into the garden and inquires about the Grand Duke's whereabouts from Delbert. Pen is taken aback to see the Grand Duke engaged in portrait drawing, as he recalls the Grand Duke's aversion to having his portrait done. The Grand Duke, hearing Pen's comment, shoots deathly stares at him, a signal that he must shut his mouth because Aster is listening. Delbert, however, praises Aster's artistic talent, leading Pen to marvel at the unexpected soft side of someone known as the world's demon. Curious about Aster's happiness while drawing, the Duke offers her the opportunity to learn anything she desires, expressing his desire to support her. Aster, feeling puzzled by the Grand Duke's kindness, continues her drawing, questioning if it will meet his expectations. Upon completing her artwork, Aster is uncertain about how the Grand Duke will react. To her surprise, the Grand Duke proudly displays her drawing to Pen and Delbert, eliciting astonishment due to its magnificence. The Grand Duke decides to showcase Aster's portrait at an upcoming dinner party in Tercia. He instructs Delbert to find an alternative fancy frame, expressing gratitude to Aster for her exceptional work. Aster reflects on her initial impression of the Grand Duke, recalling him as a dangerous and unmerciful duke. This stark contrast leaves her feeling awkward, but her heart is so full. The night unfolds with a touch of enchantment as guests from the kingdom stream into the opulent halls of the Grand Duke's mansion, each step echoing with the anticipation of the grand event orchestrated by the master of the house. As the guests shower praises upon the Grand Duke, his countenance betrays a subtle discontent, an undercurrent of emotion beneath the veneer of a gracious host. The Grand Duke's loyal assistant assures him that all preparations are complete. In response, the Grand Duke commands the gathering crowd to assemble, leaving the guests puzzled by the abrupt summons. Their curiosity deepens as an enigmatic object, concealed beneath a shroud, demands their attention. What could lie beneath? Is it a majestic painting or perhaps a treasure of considerable size? The collective imagination of the assembly ignites with speculation, a shared sense of wonder at the undisclosed revelation. With theatrical flair, the Grand Duke unveils the concealed object, revealing none other than a remarkable drawing crafted by Aster. A gasp of amazement ripples through the crowd as they witness the unveiling of this unexpected masterpiece. Compliments and admiration cascade like a waterfall, drowning the room in a symphony of awe. Some guests speculate about the artist, questioning whether renowned painters lent their skill to this exceptional creation. A discerning individual in the crowd detects an ethereal force emanating from the drawing, a divine power that sets it apart. In response to mounting inquiries, the Grand Duke discloses the extraordinary truth. His newly adopted daughter, Aster, is the artistic genius behind the masterpiece. The revelation ripples through the assembly, sparking conversations that spread like wildfire. Whispers circulate about the Grand Duke's recent adoption and the significance of this newfound family member. In a display of paternal pride, the Grand Duke emphasizes Aster's importance, declaring an imminent celebration in her honor. He emits an aura that commands both respect and a hint of fear, leaving the guests in awe of his formidable presence. I don't know about you guys, but his scary face is rather funny seeing how a gentle father he is to his children. Amidst the celestial glow of the moon and stars, the festivities continue to unfurl. On a moonlit balcony, the Grand Duke, taking a respite from the revelry, reflects on the serene beauty of the night. In a fortuitous turn, Benjamin, an observant guest, materializes, extending greetings to the Grand Duke. Their conversation weaves through the mysteries of the evening, with Benjamin expressing curiosity about the authenticity of Aster's drawing. As the discourse delves into the mystical, Benjamin contemplates the divine power that seems to radiate from Aster's creation. The notion that this energy suggests a future saint perplexes him, challenging preconceived notions about those with such divine potential. Just then, Benjamin desires a portrait, specifically for Noah, a soul burdened by the weight of suffering. The Grand Duke, wise and understanding, advises Benjamin to seek Aster's perspective, recognizing the profound importance of his daughter's unique insight since he doesn't want to force things on her. Meanwhile, within the confines of Aster's room, a magical flower unfurls its delicate petals, a phenomenon that piques Dorothy's curiosity. Aster attributes this unexpected bloom to her latent divine power, stirring a newfound caution within her. In the hushed quarters of her sanctuary, Aster resolves to guard the secret of her extraordinary abilities, the delicate balance between revelation and concealment becoming ever more precarious in the wake of this mesmerizing night. Beneath the vast blue sky, the temple hums with excitement as other children chat about Raphael, the potential saint in waiting. Their lively discussions echo through the corridors, creating an energetic buzz in the air. Raphael, with a sense of responsibility, heads towards Saint Cespia's room to deliver some medicine. But oh dear, there's a problem. A watchful priest stands guard at the door. The priest, appreciative of Raphael's devotion, praises her for having a heart as beautiful as a summer day. Surprisingly, the priest hands Raphael a potion, a mysterious liquid wrapped in an air of secrecy. Little does Raphael know, this potion might hold something wicked, a brew that could bring harm to Cespia, the person Raphael is supposed to be looking after. Unfazed by the hidden darkness in the potion, Raphael steps into Cespia's room. Inside, a poignant scene unfolds. Cespia lying in a delicate state, her life hanging by a fragile thread. The impending tragedy casts a heavy atmosphere, turning the once peaceful sanctuary into a place shadowed by sorrow. Raphael doesn't deserve to be a saint. She's selfish and abusive to the point where she has to kill or make someone's life miserable just to enjoy her own. In a quiet moment, Raphael's mind drifts back to memories of her father, recalling that the potion she now holds was brought by Duke Breon for the temple, especially for her. Time moves forward, and Raphael finds herself preparing Cespia's medicine, a concoction laced with the very poison that Duke Breon had provided. With a strained smile, she presents the chalice to Cespia, urging her to drink every drop. The facade of care and concern masks the sinister truth hidden within the potion. Meanwhile, in Aster's room, Dorothy is puzzled by the growing number of hyacinth seeds Aster has been requesting. Unbeknownst to Dorothy, Aster is consumed by worries about the impending awakening of the saint. She gazes at the flowers, contemplating their sensitivity to divine energy. Hyacinths, she believes, will be the quickest indicators of her progress. Out in the garden, Aster's plan unfolds as dozens of hyacinths burst into bloom, captivating the attention of the bewildered servants. Hidden behind a tree, Aster is taken aback by the unexpected abundance. Her intention was to discreetly gauge her progress, but the garden now boasts an extravagant display. Caught in this unexpected development, Aster grapples with conflicting emotions. Her plans to leave the kingdom before the temple discovers her are suddenly accelerated. Despite her resolve, she finds it challenging to depart abruptly. In the short time she spent within the mansion, she grew accustomed to the warmth and affection that enveloped her. There's a fear that leaving hastily might weaken her heart, a heart that found solace in playful moments and forged connections. Amidst her contemplation, a hand emerges, breaking the solitude. It's the Grand Duke, silently observing Aster from a caring distance. Unbeknownst to her, his concern for her well-being runs deep, ensuring she doesn't face injury or harm. In the garden, the Grand Duke notices Aster's bandaged forehead and politely asks if she's okay. Aster, downplaying any discomfort, assures him that it doesn't hurt at all. He really loves his adopted daughter. The Grand Duke, upset that the tree might hurt his daughter, contemplates whether he orders it cut down or not. Upon realizing it, he considers the novel emotions of having a daughter, asking himself if this is what it's like to have one. Then, noticing the hyacinths blooming, he suggests relocating for a private chat. In the garden patio, curious about Aster's divine power, the Grand Duke questions its strength. Aster, hesitating, briefly explains the hyacinths, reassured by the Grand Duke that it's not her fault. Shifting topics, the Grand Duke requests a portrait, balancing concern about Aster's involvement in imperial matters. Benjamin's earnest plea convinces him, and Aster agrees, stating it's not a tough task. Uncertain about the temple's condition, Aster seeks reassurance from the Grand Duke, who remains unsure. Determined, she convinces herself that everything will be fine. Arriving at the sanctuary, Aster follows the coachman's directions, discovering a cabin to draw for 2 hours. As she enters, the sanctuary is filled with divine powers. She wonders why such a place exists aside from the temple. But as she further goes in, a cold air emanates from a room where a child sleeps. Just then, she's filled with shock, realizing that she has met him before. If I'm not mistaken, this is the boy in her dreams, right? So he's a living character after all. Aster recognizes the boy, but struggles to recall where they met. As he peacefully sleeps, Aster prepares her art supplies, feeling a bit awkward about sketching someone secretly for the first time. Starting her drawing, Aster can't help but notice the boy's handsome features, a rarity comparable to Rafian's beauty. How can our princess concentrate with a face like that? While concentrating on her sketch, Aster ponders the familiarity, trying to remember where she encountered him before. Midway through her work, Aster realizes the boy's closed eyes hinder her accuracy. Hoping for a clearer memory, she contemplates the mystery of his identity. Feeling her energy wane, Aster, noticing the boy's exposed hand, decides to warm it. Holding his hand, she speaks to him, sharing her past loneliness at the temple. Expressing a wish for his well-being, she imparts a bit of her divine power as a blessing. After the blessing, Aster is drained, and suddenly the boy's hand grabs hers. Startled, she confesses she thought he was still asleep. The boy, now awake, questions Aster about her identity, and she hurriedly apologizes. The boy, with dark brown, gorgeous eyes, fully awakens, bringing an end to the mysterious slumber. Oh my, he's even more handsome with those eyes! Aster, caught off guard by the boy's sudden awakening, is uncertain about how to handle the situation. The boy demands an explanation for her presence, prompting Aster to quickly respond that she was commissioned to create his portrait. She apologizes sincerely, emphasizing her intent to respect his privacy. Aster clarifies that she didn't mean any disrespect and only wished to silently capture his likeness. Her frustration arises from being unable to see his eyes, hindering her ability to complete the portrait with accuracy. The mysterious boy before her, whose name she has yet to learn, exhibits a strange mixture of curiosity and delight at her presence. His question lingers in the air, a curious blend of uncertainty and anticipation. Is this a mere figment of his imagination or a tangible reality? The atmosphere is laden with an unspoken tension as Aster attempts to extract her hand gently from the boy's grasp. His refusal to let go creates an unusual connection, a silent understanding between two individuals who, moments ago, were just mere strangers. In the midst of this silent communion, a smile graces the boy's face, casting a warm glow that leaves Aster momentarily flustered. His inquiry about her purpose for being there seems innocent yet loaded with underlying curiosity. Aster, with a sense of humility, acknowledges that her task is to capture the essence of his eyes on canvas, a mission bestowed upon her by the Grand Duke himself. The boy's joyous assumption that Benjamin, a familiar figure in their lives, orchestrated this rendezvous brings a unique charm to the encounter. It's as if the threads of fate have woven them together, guided by an invisible hand that connects lives in unexpected ways. Aster, however, gently corrects his assumption, emphasizing that her journey into the cabin was solely at the behest of the Grand Duke. The revelation seems to bring a mixture of surprise and satisfaction to the boy, who now sees her presence as a direct favor from the highest echelons of authority. As the conversation unfolds, the boy suggests a return visit, inviting Aster to resume her artistic endeavor next time. He then closes his eyes as if to test Aster's patience, much to her apparent confusion. He is so innocent and sweet in her dreams, so it's kind of surprising that he's actually playful. And how come the boy can communicate with her through dreams? As Aster navigates this mysterious encounter, the story unfolds with hidden layers waiting to be revealed. What truths will Aster uncover in her artistic journey, and how will the boy's presence shape her destiny? The mysterious boy waits for Esther's response after asking if she's willing to come again next time to finish the portrait. However, she seems reluctant to accede to his request. Shortly after, he reveals that he's sick with a very rare incurable disease, and that he's been living here all alone ever since he was born. That is why he's so happy that she visited him. After hearing his story, Esther wonders how lonely it must have been for him, prompting her to recall one of the most traumatizing and lonely days she has experienced in the past. As her thoughts recede because of him, he once again asks when she's going to pay him another visit. Not wanting to promise anything, she tells him that she'll have to ask permission to see if she's allowed to visit again, which he seems to be satisfied to hear. Later that day, Esther bids farewell to the mysterious boy, who eagerly awaits her next visit. Meanwhile, she wonders who exactly that familiar yet mysterious boy is. And like him, she also looks forward to when she'll see him again. Elsewhere, Raphael visits Cespia, who looks like a lifeless corpse because of the poison. Like a prophecy, Cespia warns Raphael that there will be a child who will inherit the power of the goddess. Naturally, Raphael thinks this is just meaningless blabber, but upon hearing who the next saintess will be, she feels a great amount of uneasiness. Upon further inquiry about this new saintess, Cespia doesn't seem to know what Raphael is talking about. It's as if with a snap of her fingers, she regained consciousness like she wasn't the one speaking earlier. After Cespia dismisses Raphael's claim that she said all those things, Raphael is left dumbfounded by what she just heard. Most of all, she's alarmed by the fact that she isn't the next saintess. All of Raphael's life, she was led to believe that she was going to be a saintess. The fact of the matter is, because of an oath to the goddess in the past, the Brayon family is destined to have a saintess every 3 generations. So right now, there shall be no other candidate other than Raphael who'll be the next saintess. Presently, Raphael meets with Cain, who has just finished moving her gifts. He also informs her that the Duke will stop by and is looking forward to her results. She then asks for further details about the boy that Esther recently interacted with. The boy is revealed to be Noah, and according to Raphael, he has been asleep for 3 months. Apparently, he needs constant divinity healing from a high priest, or else he'll die. But she is determined not to let that happen. She orders Cain that next time she's free, she's going to see her fiancé, Noah. Cain is obviously unsure about her request, but he can only do so little about it. The following day, Noah wakes up feeling more refreshed than ever before. The first thing he remembers is Esther, whom he wishes to see again. Shortly, Benjamin enters the room. Noah then asks if he was the one who sent Esther, noting that if he's with her all the time, then he won't be needing the temple. He then reveals that he knows Esther is the adopted daughter of Duke Tercia, which surprises Benjamin. Noah then tells him that although it's hard, he needs to see Esther again. After heeding his request, Benjamin informs that Raphael also wants to see him when she's free. Noah is then reminded that he still has a connection with Raphael. Unfortunately for her, Noah is willing to terminate their relationship so that he can be with Esther. At the mansion, Ben informs Daewin about Judy's situation at the swordsmanship training camp. He also tells her about Esther's soon-to-be tutor. Shortly after, Daewin sees Esther pondering over the mysterious boy she just met, Noah. Daewin approaches her to inform her about her tutor, prompting Esther to wonder how someone like the Archduke would ever care for her when no one ever did before. A while later, Dennis points out that their father seems to be the most nervous of all, even though it's Esther who will be receiving a tutor. He also says that he wishes to study along with Esther, despite usually preferring to study alone, because it feels different when he's studying with her. Soon, Dorothy announces that the tutor's carriage has arrived. The tutor introduces himself as James Griffith. Daewin introduces himself to James, followed by his children, Dennis and Esther. Afterward, James, the children, and Daewin are escorted by Dorothy to the study room. As they head to the room, James can't help but ask why Daewin is coming along. Daewin responds that he needs to witness the session in order to make an accurate assessment. As if it's not obvious, Daewin really cares about his children. Everyone present in the room seems to be enjoying their time. James enjoys teaching, Daewin is satisfied that his children are doing well, Dennis is guiding Esther, and she's enjoying learning. Though the session has already ended, the children still seem eager to learn, so the adults agree to extend it just a little while longer. Meanwhile, Judy arrives after a month at the swordsmanship training camp and is greeted by Delbit. After asking if his family is doing well, Judy informs Delbit that he'll be visiting a certain someone for payback. Apparently, Judy was informed by Dorothy that Sebastian said some pretty awful things to Esther, which is why he's currently out to get them. Though he admits that he was also awful for breaking his promise to his sister, he can't let it slide how someone dared to degrade his sister. He slams the door, asking everyone where Sebastian is. He then asks one of the students at the academy about Sebastian's whereabouts, and demands an answer while he's still being kind, though he's visibly upset right now. Meanwhile, Sebastian is bothered that Judy came back just to get him soon after he left the training camp. He then receives an announcement from the butler that Judy is summoning him for an urgent discussion. Not wanting to waste any more time, Judy shows up because Sebastian is taking too long to heed his summons. The former then confronts the latter about insulting his sister and physically punishes him. Sebastian refuses to be embarrassed in front of his lackeys, so he retorts that he's none the wiser that they are related because Esther looks different from him. But this only antagonizes Judy even more, causing him to hurt Sebastian even more. Judy then tells him that the pain he's feeling right now is incomparable to what Esther has gone through because of his words. Judy acknowledges that it's his fault Esther was hurt because he was the one who called Sebastian that day, and that she wouldn't have fallen sick if he hadn't broken his promise. Afterward, he demands Sebastian ask for forgiveness from Esther, but Sebastian obviously doesn't want to do this. Still, he has no choice because Judy is just that intimidating. After dealing with him, Judy then decides to go see his dear sister. Meanwhile, Esther remembers the portrait she has to finish. She's then reminded of Noah's request for her to visit him again. But this trip down memory lane is short-lived because she needs to focus and finish her homework. Shortly after, Esther hears a commotion on the street and quickly comes down to get a closer look. Apparently, someone just got bitten by a snake, and now the white snake is staring at her menacingly. Right now, Esther is completely confused because she understands what the snake is trying to say. The snake only bit the person because it's pregnant and was just trying to defend itself. Esther is contemplating whether it's a good idea for her to help Hans right now because she must maintain a low profile, and she won't be able to do that if she helps him. Shortly after, Dorothy sees her and asks her to go inside because it's dangerous due to the snake. Esther then asks Dorothy if it was Hans who made the donut for her, which Dorothy affirms. Esther then reflects that when she collapsed due to fever from her awakening as a saintess, all the servants at the mansion cared for her. They treated her like family. They were kind to her, especially Hans, who knew she liked sweets, so he kept giving her treats. With that in mind, she ultimately decides that she will help him. She then tries to console the snake, not blaming it because Esther knows the snake was just trying to protect its baby. The snake calms down, rests on her hands, and she puts it inside a basket, making everyone surprised to witness the scene unfolding before them. Right now, she's worried because everyone always takes advantage of her since she's different. But she is left with no choice but to heal Hans because she cares for him. She's also worried that her healing ability might not work because this is the first time she's done this. And yes, she is right. People who witnessed her tame the snake and heal Hans all thought that she was weird and scary. Upon hearing this, she feels disheartened and promptly leaves. But after she leaves, Hans, with conviction, tells everyone that Esther just healed him. He claims that she could have just ignored him but chose to help him. He then convinces everyone that she's actually amazing and kind. While Hans and her friends are enthusiastic and excited to make sweets as thanks for Esther, Shay, on the other hand, seeks comfort from the snake she just saved because she thinks everyone will hate her. Dennis witnesses Esther tame the snake and use her healing power on Hans. He then quickly browses for the book that explains this rare phenomenon. In the book, according to the High Priest Christopher, the Saintess has the ability to communicate with any kind of animal. It is also noted in the book that such powers are incomparable to ordinary abilities. They are divine powers. In addition, the healing prowess is unparalleled to the point that these powers were called the salvation of the Empire. The book states that the power of the saint will be confirmed when the sacred flower blooms and the user's eyes become golden. This confirms Dennis's suspicion that Esther is indeed a saintess. This revelation prompts him to wonder if his father already knew about this. But one thing remains a mystery. Saintess Cespia is still alive, and in history, there has never been a record of two saintesses existing in a single generation. This is a conundrum, which Dennis suspects means the temple might not even know that Esther is a saintess. If they did, they would never have allowed the Tercia household to adopt Esther. With that in mind, Dennis prepares for what's about to come by accumulating as much knowledge as he can to protect Esther. They never know how the temple would react if this information ever leaks out. Meanwhile, Dorothy is worried because Esther decided to keep the snake as a pet, provided it doesn't poison anyone in the household, of course. Although Esther asked this of the snake, it isn't enough to ease Dorothy's worry. After Dorothy leaves, Esther names the snake Bem Bem, since it is comfortable with her. Shortly after, the mark of the Saintess's awakening starts to grow once again. It appeared ever since she collapsed, and now it gradually glows brighter. Esther then decides to take a nap alongside the snake because she feels tired after using her power earlier. Later, Dorothy worries about having left Esther alone with the snake. After running her errands, she quickly checks on them only to see the two sleeping soundly. Late in the evening, Rafian finally gets the chance to visit Noah. She asks how he was able to wake up without her powers, to which he responds coldly, saying that he can find other means to wake up because he's the prince of the Austin Empire. Rafian then tells him that he shouldn't be so mean to her since she's his fiancée and the next saintess. Rafian expresses her delight upon being acknowledged by Noah. She was worried that he might have forgotten her because of his 3-month slumber. She then shares that ever since she was young, she has trained to become the saintess, and that's her only purpose. Though he does acknowledge her, Noah tells her that determination is good, but if she's consumed by too much greed for something she doesn't deserve, it might cause her great regret. Seeing that Rafian is visibly confused, Noah asks her a question. Is there something she's yearning for but doesn't belong to her? Rafian responds with a solid no. She then tells him that even if that's the case, there's nothing the future saintess can't have. Afterwards, he asks her why their engagement was not terminated when he got sick. He thought it was supposed to be broken off by her family, the Brones. He then laughs this off, which results in her feeling insulted, exclaiming that he shouldn't treat her like this. He responds by saying that it's not his fault that their engagement was supposed to be terminated, and further claims that he doesn't need her in order to survive. But Rafian is persistent. She still believes that he needs her. Having had enough of her conceitedness, Noah impassively asks her if she's sure that she's going to be the next saintess. Meanwhile, Judy is informed that Esther just brought a snake into the mansion. He's baffled as to why no one stopped her from keeping it. He then decides to quickly check up on her. Upon his visit, he sees Esther sleeping soundly on the floor. Worried, he approaches her but notices the snake staring at her. Terrified, he wakes her up. Confused, she wakes up and reassures Judy that the snake is harmless, even calling it by its name, Bem Bem. Despite Esther's assurance, Judy still can't help but feel worried. I mean, just look at the size of that thing. Though terrified, he musters up the courage to approach Bem Bem, witnessing that it really does listen to her. Impressed, he praises her for having so many talents. She then asks Judy if His Grace, their father, would allow her to keep Bem Bem as a pet. Judy responds bluntly, saying that given their father's personality, he might say no because it's dangerous. He then follows this up by asking why she still calls their dad His Grace. He understands that Esther might still have a hard time adjusting, but it's more weird if she sounds distant from her family. So instead, he whispers a suggestion to her, which makes Esther blush with embarrassment. The day after, at the dining table, Judy shares his experience at the training camp, making Dennis envious of the experience he gained. Meanwhile, Esther is troubled because she finds it hard to bring up her concern, especially with the bubbly atmosphere. Judy takes notice of this, so he decides to break the ice for her. Taking this opportunity, she then asks Daewin about keeping a pet snake, which makes him momentarily pause in bafflement. Esther then explains that despite its size, it's not dangerous at all. But this is all futile because Daewin is too concerned for her safety to risk allowing her to have such a pet. Saddened, she glances over at Judy, who gives her a go-ahead signal. Esther then sheepishly begins to beg her father to grant her request just this one time. So yeah, obviously Daewin wouldn't allow her to have a pet, but last night Judy proposed that if Esther calls Daewin father, then he might reconsider his decision. Daewin is surprised to hear Esther call him father. In disbelief, he asks her to repeat what she said, but instead, she apologizes for upsetting him. He then reassures her, saying that he actually prefers it, so she shouldn't worry. Yeah, of course Daewin would be happy. The first time he met Esther, she was like a soulless corpse, so to him, this must be a good sign. After hearing his response, Esther once again asks if she's allowed to keep Bem Bem, to which he agrees, but reminds her to be cautious. It didn't take a minute for Daewin to shamelessly ask Esther to call him father again. A little later, Daewin finishes his meal and leaves his dear children. As he heads towards work, he expresses his delight to Ben, who's keeping him company, saying that he never thought being called a father by Esther would make him this happy. Daewon then asks Ben about the newfound diamond mine, explaining that he plans to give it to Esther since little girls like shiny things. But this thought is immediately met with reluctance because it might be excessive for a little girl. Then again, Ben thinks that it's also about time for Esther to learn how to handle money. With that, it's decided that Daewon will spoil Esther with a diamond mine as a gift. Meanwhile, Esther is resting by the gardens after finishing her meal when suddenly Hans and the other servants surprise her with a gift: a strawberry cake. Hans expresses his apology for not thanking her sooner after she healed him. He explains that everyone present was just shocked, which is why they weren't able to say anything, but they're actually really thankful to her. Esther begins to cry. She never thought she would receive such warm words before because in her previous life, she was led to believe that she was worthless. But now, it's different. Esther is enjoying the cake she just received from Hans and the others, prompting Dorothy to remind her not to eat too much. Shortly after, Dennis visits her room and worriedly asks where she's been since he didn't see her in the garden. She responds that she just received a cake from Hans, which is why she came back to the mansion to enjoy it. But why was he looking for her in the first place? Dennis then tells her that he wishes to see the snake she mentioned earlier. Later, he finally sees the snake and notes that it is indeed large, but quite small for its breed. He also mentions that it is poisonous, so she should still be careful. Dennis then follows up by asking if she's been feeling uneasy lately, to which she denies. Upon hearing her response, Dennis feels delighted. Before leaving, he reminds her that if anything comes up, she should approach him. After all, he's her eldest brother. After he leaves, Esther wonders why everyone seems so kind lately. Esther then begins to cry again because once again, she is not used to this kind of compassionate treatment. She initially thought that the happiness she's feeling right now would be temporary because once she awakens as a saintess, the temple will come after her. But that doesn't matter right now because right now she wants to embrace her happiness and live. Now, her life has meaning, and the only thing holding her back is Raphael. But she is determined not to let Raphael take away her life once again. Because right now, she is Esther Tertia, and even after becoming a saintess, she will not allow Raphael to mess with her. Meanwhile, at the temple, Christopher kicks off the meeting by introducing their guest, Duke Brone. After acknowledging Brone's presence, he continues to discuss Cespia's deteriorating health. With Cespia's health rapidly declining and the threat it will bring to the temple, they need to speed up the process of training the next saintess, who according to them is none other than Raphael. After Christopher announces to everyone that Raphael will be the next saintess, the other priests don't seem to have any objections. They even believe that she has sufficient qualifications, given her extensive and lengthy training. After hearing the other priests' resounding approval, the meeting moves forward. Duke Brone thinks that it's only natural it would end up this way because of Raphael's major influence on the temple. Christopher then brings up the case of an orphan who was sold off to the House of Tertia because she was deemed unfit to become a saintess. Though the other priests think this is a good idea, it's not actually as easy as it sounds because the money was never given to the temple. Upon hearing this, Duke Brone wonders what's so special about the candidate that Daewon would willingly pay a large sum of money for. Unable to wrap his head around it, he decides to investigate the matter himself. After the meeting, Duke Brone is greeted by Raphael, who is visibly delighted to see her father. As soon as they settle, Duke Brone asks Raphael what she knows about the next saintess. She is then reminded of Cespia's prophecy and what Noah told her, but of course, she can't tell her father that. Instead, she lies, saying that there hasn't been any prophecy yet. However, her anxiety makes her ask a seemingly hypothetical question to her father. What if another saintess awakens and not her? The Duke immediately dismisses the question, saying that even if someone else awakens, he will make sure that Raphael becomes the saintess. He will do anything for his daughter. Brone finds it strange that there's still no prophecy, and that everything, including Daewon's movements, is suspicious. This makes him feel uneasy, thinking that he should make his move soon. Elsewhere, Esther is back at the cabin and is about to visit the mysterious boy, Noah. It wasn't easy for her to ask for permission, but Daewon eventually gave in. She then enters the cabin, but an unfamiliar voice greets her, asking what she's doing inside. The strange, unfamiliar voice comes from the man who introduced himself as Pollen. He claims to have heard about Esther. He's apparently Noah's butler, who manages the cabin. Esther then agitatedly introduces herself. Afterward, she asks where the mysterious boy is, to which Pollen replies that he's inside the room and is sleeping again. He goes on to say that Noah will be very delighted to see her again. Palin then promptly leaves, leaving Esther with a sleeping Noah. She remembers Noah's sickness, wondering if using her powers would wake him up. Upon casting her powers, he really does wake up, but at the cost of some of her energy being drained. As predicted, Noah is overjoyed to see Esther keep her promise, but she's worried that she might have interrupted his sleep, though he reassures her and even thanks her. Thanks to her, he woke up after just a few days. After asking her if she's going to finish the portrait, he then asks for a favor. Later, Noah and Esther are out admiring the beautiful scenery. Noah also takes this time to introduce himself to Esther. After agreeing to be casual with each other, Esther asks what he means by waking up sooner than expected. Noah then tells her about the incurable disease he has, the God's Curse, that causes him to sleep most of the time. As soon as someone acquires this disease, their life force burns away immediately. Without intervention from divine powers, people who have it don't have much time to live. Esther read about this at the temple, but has never encountered anyone who has it. I guess that explains why she always feels drained whenever she touches him. Noah then claims to have never cared about life before. His family, as well as people close to him, all left and abandoned him. But when Esther arrived, everything changed. He then reminds her of the favor he asked of her earlier, that is, for her to stay by his side. Of course, Esther is flustered upon hearing Noah ask if she could stay by his side. I mean, ever since she first visited him, he's already been overly familiar with her. She responds by saying that it's a very sudden request and that it would be difficult. But he tries to convince her, saying that it's because of her that he was able to wake up sooner than expected. He needs her divine powers. She acknowledges that Noah has been battling this curse for a while now, and that it's not an easy endeavor, especially since the temple has now been corrupted. It's much harder for anyone to access divine powers. But Esther wonders if Noah actually knows that she's the next saintess. Will he take advantage of her and betray her? These thoughts run through her mind, but they immediately dissipate when Noah moves closer to her, asking if she's feeling sick. Noah reassures her that he's not trying to tie her down and that she can always say no. It's just that he claims that she's the only one he's got. He then adds that he doesn't want her to suffer because of him. Once again, Esther hears warm and kind words from someone she just recently met. She wonders why someone like him, who needs divine powers most, isn't insistent. Because of Noah's seemingly kind behavior, Esther tells him that she's not free to do as she pleases, so she still needs to ask permission from her father. Upon hearing this, Noah smiles warmly at her, expressing his sincerest gratitude. He swears to her that because of her kindness, he will be sure to repay her in the future. Suddenly, Esther feels a menacing aura, as if someone is gazing and peering into her soul. She quickly turns her head, confusing Noah. Elsewhere, Sespia claims to have seen the next saintess, and it's not Raphael. She is perplexed by what she just witnessed. Shortly after, Sespia overhears Raphael's conversation with Verdun, revealing that they have been poisoning her all this time. Because of this, Sespia is determined to find the real saintess, Esther, in order to put an end to the temple and Baron's conspiracy. At the mansion, Dorothy is excited to see Esther wear a wonderful red dress. She wonders how Daewon knows so much about what would look good on Esther, noting that he really put an effort into choosing this dress. Esther, on the other hand, wonders where they'll be going with such a pretty dress. Dorothy reassures her, saying that she doesn't have to worry since she's going to be with her father Daewon, and without a doubt, wherever it will be wonderful. A little later, Esther rushes down the stairs to meet with her father, who's pleased to see her in such a lovely dress. She then asks if they're going somewhere far away, to which he responds that she'll have to see. Eventually, they arrive at the destination. It's somewhere along the mountains. Daewon then tells her that it would be difficult for a frail little child to walk around, so he proposes to carry her on his back. But Esther passionately says that she's fine on her own and that she can walk by herself, which causes Daewon to be overtly disappointed. After a while of hiking, he looks back to see his daughter panting, prompting him to carry her. Soon after, they arrive at the desired location, revealing the diamond mine that Daewon has long been waiting to give to Esther. Upon hearing that this diamond mine is for her, Esther is left petrified. But she is reminded that she's a Tertia and that she has to be confident given her name and status. This recollection prompts her to ask her father if this is a normal gift for nobles, which he hesitantly affirms. Shortly, the servants finish preparing the refreshments, which makes Esther excitedly dive into them. Daewon ponders that Esther has finally become healthier, not only physically, but in her relationship with other people as well. A big change compared to when he first met her. To top this all off, he gives her unpolished diamond ores, reminding her of what he said when he adopted her. that he'll give her everything, and that still applies now. He then expresses his sentiments, thanking her and wishing her good luck as part of the Tercia family. Esther is still in disbelief. Right before her is a box of diamonds. In her previous life, she couldn't even dream of having something like this. She lived in poverty, and no one even gave her food or clothes in the temple. Everyone treated her poorly. Even the other low-level candidates, who were nobles, were treated less harshly compared to her. But right now, that won't happen again because she's super rich. The riches, as well as the diamond mine, will become a very good asset if she wishes to fight against the temple. She then notices Dorothy and promptly decides to give her a piece of diamond. Of course, Dorothy is too stunned to accept it. She thinks she hasn't done anything to deserve such a gift at all. But Esther insists, saying that the diamond is a token of appreciation for the times Dorothy took good care of her. In tears, Dorothy embraces Esther tightly, expressing her gratitude for such kind words and for the privilege of being her maid. In the evening, Esther sneaks around the mansion after deceiving Dorothy into thinking she's asleep. Little does she know that Judy sees her sneak out of the mansion. Esther is in the garden, practicing her divine powers in preparation for the future. She uses the fountain to practice because, despite overflowing with divine power, she still needs to work on her healing capabilities. But practicing is no easy matter. She fails a couple of times, but in the end manages to purify the fountain she's working on. Even she is amazed because numerous priests can't even accomplish this feat to such a great degree. With her powers, she thinks it's possible to use this fountain as a means to spy on Raphael, and indeed, she does. She then sees Raphael near a body of holy water, but what's eerie about her surveillance is that she also sees a familiar person, Saintess Cespia. Esther is sure that the person she saw was the Saintess Cespia. She recalls that at some point, Cespia stopped appearing at social events, but she never thought she had become bedridden. Esther wonders if Raphael has done something to her. Even if her suspicion is true, there's literally nothing Esther can do right now. Knowing how corrupt the temple is, they will do everything in their power to hide all evidence. She then decides to use her power once more to connect with the holy water and see Cespia again. But upon touching the water, she slowly loses consciousness. Luckily, Judy is there to catch her. He only followed her because he was so worried about her going alone. He never expected to witness such an extraordinary display of divine powers. He wonders who Esther really is. Meanwhile, a man named Avian is walking back and forth restlessly at the gate of the mansion. He is a skilled family doctor with a commoner background. But if that's all he was, he wouldn't be suspiciously pacing around the mansion. Actually, he has an ability that only priests possess, the ability to detect divine powers. When Esther collapsed and all the doctors attended to her, he immediately noticed an astonishing amount of divine power lying dormant within her. Shortly after, Judy arrives carrying Esther. He asks Avian what he's doing, and Avian immediately introduces himself as the family doctor. Upon hearing this, Judy asks him to take a look at Esther because she suddenly fainted. But just as he's about to approach Esther, they are interrupted by Dennis. Judy and Dennis argue briefly, but that brief moment is all Judy needs to realize that Avian is actually a suspicious person. He then tells Avian to scram. After Avian leaves, Dennis asks Judy why he was about to hand Esther over to someone else. After Judy explains, Dennis asks him to follow him because he wishes to discuss matters regarding Esther. The twin brothers enter the mansion with Judy still carrying Esther. Shortly after, Bem Bem approaches them, looking ready to attack. But Dennis reassures his twin brother that Bem Bem is just worried about Esther. Dennis politely asks Bem Bem if they can pass so they can take care of Esther, to which Bem Bem accedes. After laying Esther on her bed, Dennis asks Judy for details of what happened. Judy's story concludes with him saying that Esther is not an ordinary girl. On top of being able to purify the fountain, she can also tame snakes. Dennis then asks if he was scared upon witnessing Esther use her powers, to which Judy denies, noting that he wouldn't be afraid of his own sister. With that said, Dennis drops a bombshell on Judy, that Esther is possibly a saintess. Baffled, Judy retorts that there's already a saintess. He learned this during his swordsmanship training camp. Dennis agrees that this part is a bit strange, but the fact that Esther has a great amount of divine power, as they have witnessed, cannot be refuted. Judy then approaches and watches over the sleeping Esther, still in disbelief that she's a saintess. Just earlier, he thought his heart was going to stop upon seeing his little sister suddenly collapse. He doesn't like the idea that every time she uses her powers, she collapses. Regardless of whether Esther is a saintess or not, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is that she's their little sister. Then it dawns on both of them that once the temple finds out, she'll be taken away from them. Furious, Judy won't let that happen, and the same goes for Dennis. The twins agree to keep this from their father for a little while and protect their sister on their own for now. The following morning, Esther wakes up with a vague memory that she was in the garden. Dorothy comes in to put a newly bloomed freesia flower in the room, but it suddenly grows a little because of Esther's divine powers. Fortunately, Dorothy doesn't notice. Shortly after, Hera enters the room, visibly dispirited. She immediately apologizes profusely to Esther. Upset, Dorothy tells Hera to stop with her vulgar actions and just say what she wants to say. Hera reveals that she has been selling the discarded paintings from the mansion. Initially, she was going to throw them out, but she was blinded by the money. Soon after that, priests from the temple visited Hera's house and wished to meet the artist of the paintings. It would have been fine if it ended there, but Hera accepted compensation from the priests. Not in the form of money, but rather healing powers for her sick sibling. Hera then reveals that she's been given a token by the priest, which the artist should present to the temple. After forgiving Hera, Esther decides to go to the temple, not because of Hera, but because Esther actually wants to visit herself, as there's something bothering her. Later, Esther is wearing a disguise in order to sneak inside the temple, but Dorothy is worried that they might ignore them because they look like commoners. Fortunately, they have a token from Hera, making it easy for them to access the temple. After presenting the token, it takes a while, but they eventually let Esther and Dorothy in, though not without gossip from the guards. Upon entering, they witness a crowd of people lining up to see the new head priest. The guard then tells them they should be grateful for such a rare opportunity to witness this. When they arrive, the guard tells them that only one person can come in, so Esther has to go alone, leaving a worried Dorothy behind. Esther then enters the room and is welcomed by the new head priest. But she is not amused by this at all. After their brief small talk, the new head priest, Faris, gets straight to the point and asks about the paintings Esther drew. He explains that he initially expected someone older and more experienced because of the divine power he felt from those paintings. Esther then asks why he wants to see her in the first place, to which he explains that he wishes for her to create a portrait for him. He reveals that he wants her to paint a portrait of the Saintess Cespia. She accepts the offer. After all, she also wants to meet Cespia. But though she agrees, she asks a very obvious question. Would it be fine for a random artist to paint such an important person? Faris praises Esther's wit and then proceeds to answer, saying that he doesn't plan on letting anyone know about this. In short, this deal is a secret. Esther thinks of accepting the offer. After all, this may be the only time she's going to see the Saintess Cespia. Shortly after, Esther hears her father shouting from the training camp. She then becomes worried about being scolded for showing up at the temple without permission. A man then approaches Esther, asking if she's here to see her father, but she apologizes immediately for possibly disrupting their training. He then offers to watch from afar. Upon observation, he explains that all of the knights admire Daewon's skills. Hearing and seeing her dad in action, Esther is all the more amazed. Hearing the little noise his daughter made, Daewon turns his head menacingly towards Esther. She tells her father that she wishes to discuss something, but before that, she hands him a bouquet, which he is pleased to receive. She then asks him for permission to go to the temple because this may be the only chance she gets to see the Saintess. But Daewon is obviously hesitant because Esther has been there before, and he doesn't like the idea of sending her to a place that caused her great trauma. However, he eventually gives in because of her conviction. He agrees as long as she promises that she'll come back. Daewon calls for 20 people to escort Esther, which overwhelms her because it's too many. When they arrive at the training grounds, more than 20 people show up to become escorts, and that's just because they want the privilege of being secured for the rest of their lives. Daewon then asks Esther if she can choose among the candidates, but this isn't an easy task for her because everyone seems so trustworthy and capable. However, there is one person who stands out to her, the man who guided her earlier, Victor. Apparently, Daewon already has his eyes on Victor as he believes he is truly capable. The problem, though, is his excessive involvement with women. After dismissing everyone except him, Victor proceeds to pledge loyalty to Esther as he kneels down and kisses her hand. Obviously, this doesn't amuse Daewon at all. But Esther reassures her father, saying that Victor's lips didn't actually touch her hand. Daewon then reminds Victor again not to thoughtlessly touch Esther, which he nervously agrees to. The next day, Judy is upset that he doesn't get to be Esther's escort, but Esther explains that he might be easily recognized. He is still visibly upset, prompting Esther to embrace him and reassure him that she'll be back very soon. Dennis, on the other hand, condescendingly tells Victor to do his job and not let Esther get so much as a scratch. Victor then muses at how similar the twins are to their father. Dennis then hands Esther a pouch filled with treasures that may help her on her journey. After giving Dennis a tight embrace, Esther's journey to the Central Temple begins. Esther and Victor arrive in the bustling city of the Austin Empire. Apparently, the temple will send Esther a private carriage to be discreet, which worries Victor a bit. She then asks him to be less formal with her because it ruins the point of hiding her status. Although he is a bit reluctant because of Daewon, he eventually gives in to her request. Upon their arrival at the Central Temple, they are greeted by Faris. He notes that they can't easily enter through the front gate, so they'll have to use an entrance reserved only for priests. Esther wonders why. Despite it being only for priests, there is still so much secrecy surrounding it. On top of that, this is supposed to be the path to the most esteemed person in the Empire, the Saintess, yet there are no servants or holy knights guarding it. Faris then reminds Esther that under no circumstances should she reveal her identity, and that Victor cannot accompany her once she's inside. Of course, she won't allow that. Either Victor accompanies her or she leaves. Upon opening the doors, Esther feels a choking sensation as she gazes down the corridors of the temple, thinking that this place doesn't even feel like a place housing the Saintess. Seeing this, Victor becomes worried, but she reassures him that she's fine. This is actually the place where Esther lost her life 13 times just because the power of the Saintess manifested in her and not in Rafian. She endured all the torture inflicted upon her, which is why, despite this place being the temple, she feels as though it's a dungeon. But now, things are different. Esther has a family that cares for her so much. A little while later, Esther finally enters the secret room where the Saintess Cespia is bedridden. Unfortunately, Cespia no longer recognizes Faris, and Faris notes that Cespia has been drastically weakened. He then asks Esther if she can draw a portrait of Cespia while she's still alive. He leaves the room so Esther can be alone with Cespia. When Esther saw her through the holy water, she was already in bad condition, but she never thought it would be even worse up close. As Esther begins to masterfully paint on the canvas, Cespia catches her attention, asking how she ended up in this place. Esther apprehensively asks Cespia how she knows her, to which Cespia responds that when she used the holy water to spy on her, she was also able to see her as well. Cespia then continues by asking if it was Faris who sent her. Cespia initially thought that when she first saw Esther in her dreams, it was a revelation of who would be the next saint. But upon seeing her now, she admits that Esther has already surpassed her capabilities. Cespia claims she does not know why such an unprecedented occurrence, having two saintesses in one generation, happens. Perhaps it's because her powers are dwindling, but even she isn't entirely sure about that. To think, Esther thought she would finally find an answer after reliving life 14 times. She was even hoping to understand why her current life is different. Esther asks if Cespia has already revealed her vision to the temple, but Cespia explains that she no longer plans to do so because they already used and abandoned her. Regardless of who the revelation entails, the temple has already chosen someone. Cespia then asks who exactly Esther is. Someone with divine powers can't simply live outside the temple and survive. Esther tells her that it would be better for Cespia to read her memories rather than have her explain it. With Esther's approval, Cespia reads her memories, and upon seeing something so horrific and grim, she can't help but tremble in fear and feel pity for Esther. Even when she endured a horrendous 13 lives dedicated to the temple, she, Cespia, still failed to protect her. But she's not the only one who feels this way. Esther also feels bad for thinking that Cespia was part of her torture, but in the end, Cespia was exploited as well. Having nothing else to do, Esther doesn't know what to do next, but Cespia proposes to do something for her as a way of making amends for the time she failed to protect Esther. Afterward, Esther leaves the room and is greeted by Victor and Faris, who is elated, carrying the portrait that Esther just made. With this, Cespia's holiness will be preserved. Before Esther leaves, Cespia promises to hold on as much as she can because, for as long as she's alive, Rafian being the next saintess will simply be a designation. During that time, she hopes Esther will strengthen her power. This is the final will of the saintess, to make up for failing to protect Esther in her past 13 lives. This way, she can overthrow the Brones and the temple. On the way back, Esther and her company encounter Rafian, a possibility she had failed to consider. Luckily, Rafian is not able to fully recognize her, but this is indeed a blunder. Faris congratulates Rafian and informs her that Cespia still isn't feeling well. As they are about to leave, Rafian asks about the mysterious girl with them, to which he lies, saying they're just servants. But Rafian is not buying it. She asks Esther to lower her guard, but Faris insists that they're just random people from the southern region. Luckily, they are able to escape her suspicion, but if she had taken a closer look, they definitely would have been found out. Shortly thereafter, they part ways with Ferris as this concludes the purpose of their visit. On their way out, another familiar face comes into sight, Khalid. Encountering Rafian was bad enough, and now they have to deal with Khalid. Just as they are passing him, he recognizes Esther because of her eyes. Because of this, tension arises between Khalid and Victor, and in order not to attract more attention, Esther decides to give up the facade. Esther and Khalid then discuss privately, where he is genuinely worried about her and asks if she's going to return, to which she says no and tells him to just leave her alone. He then reveals that Rafian is currently on the lookout for someone with ash-colored hair, which alarms Esther. Upon hearing this, she wants to quickly get away. She then tells him to leave her alone since they were never close to begin with, which visibly hurts him. Seeing him offended makes her feel disgusted, knowing that he attacked her in her previous life. The fact of the matter is that when the time comes for her to face the enemy, he will be standing beside Rafian. Esther bids Khalid farewell, noting that they'll probably meet again sooner or later. Upon returning to Victor, Esther feels wary, as if encountering Rafian alone was not enough, and now she has just met Khalid. Seeing that she's very exhausted, Victor suggests she should hop on his back. She asks if being carried by their brothers is common among siblings, to which Victor responds that it probably depends on their relationship. He then admits that Esther is quite different. Regardless of whether they're siblings or not, people would gladly help Esther out. A little later, Victor proposes that they stay at an inn since the sun is starting to set. As they head toward the inn, he tells her she should take a nap while he hums a lullaby. Shortly after, a commotion arises when a child steals something, surprising Victor. Just as he is plotting to trip the kid, the child accidentally rips Esther's dress. But she doesn't even flinch and goes back to sleep because she knows Victor will protect her. Victor seems delighted to be serving Esther and is pondering asking Daewin to continue his servitude toward her. Meanwhile, at the Tercia mansion, Daewin has a visitor, the 7th prince, Noah, who seems to be in a healthier state. They then have a lengthy idle chat, which only leaves Daewin suspicious. Shortly after, Noah finally reveals the reason for his visit. He wants to live in the Archduchy. Daewin's head begins to ache as he processes what the prince just said, but Noah seems serious about living in Tercia, even seeming like he's looking forward to it. Daewin then reminds him about the decree that he's not allowed to reside outside of the holy sanctuary, to which Noah agrees, but notes that it will soon be lifted anyway. He claims that his curse will soon be lifted, and by that time, he will contact his father to allow it. But Daewin is still skeptical. In fact, he doesn't even believe that the prince's curse will be lifted. Noah then informs him that the Gaho River of Tercia is the key to curing his illness. He claims to be the only one who can attest to this, as proven by his continuing survival from the curse. He then once again asks Daewin to reconsider his decision. Daewin points out that perhaps there's a political agenda behind his intentions, which Noah doesn't deny. He admits that he wants power. Though this was Daewin's initial perception of Noah, Noah tells him that he only seeks power right now because there's someone he needs to protect. Daewin does think there's a possibility that Noah will achieve what he wants. I mean, if it wasn't for the incurable disease he has, he'd be the most fitting candidate to be the crown prince. Noah then showcases his determination and negotiating skills by saying that if he indeed becomes the crown prince, then Daewin would gain a lot from it. With this, Daewin agrees to Noah staying in Tercia as long as he resides in a secluded area. On the way out, Noah notices a portrait of Daewin and asks if it's also a painting made by Esther. Hearing that Noah seems familiar with his daughter, Daewin can't help but menacingly ask about their relationship, to which Noah responds that they're just friends. After Noah leaves, Daewin acknowledges that once Noah tries to reclaim the spot of crown prince, there will be a bloodbath. Meanwhile, Esther and Victor visit the most famous clothing boutique in the capital, where they are greeted by the staff member, who is very rude upon seeing Esther's torn clothes. But it's not only the staff who are rude, the noble women who are leisurely sitting shamelessly discriminate against her as well. Victor is annoyed by the obnoxious, loud, unashamed whispers from the patrons, but Esther tells him not to mind them. Shortly after, the owner of the clothing boutique, Dolores, arrives, discouraging the ladies from making such rude remarks. Though she acknowledges their concern about wanting to preserve the reputation of her shop, she insists that everyone who comes to her store should be treated with respect. Esther, on the other hand, is left in awe, realizing that people like Dolores, who do not judge by appearances, still exist. Dolores then introduces herself to Esther and Victor, asking Esther what she wants. Esther responds that anything is fine because they're all the same, which makes Dolores passionately disagree, saying that's an insult to the shop. After carefully browsing for a dress that would fit Esther, Nothing on the first floor seems suitable, so Dolores decides to move upstairs. Victor tells her that they were discouraged from going upstairs by the staff, which upsets Dolores greatly. Dolores then goes on a spree trying to pick the perfect dress for Esther, making her a bit overwhelmed and embarrassed. Afterwards, Esther decides to buy all the dresses Dolores prepared for her, using the jewels that Dennis gave her. Of course, this shocks Dolores and the staff members, who thought Esther had no money. Though they were skeptical at first, when Esther reveals that she's actually the daughter of Daewin Tercia, they are petrified in disbelief. On their way home, Victor asks Esther if she enjoyed her purchases, to which she responds delightedly, saying she's never experienced buying so many things with her own money. She also comments on how kind the staff became, which Victor believes was just their way of trying to save the shop. Upon their arrival, they are greeted by an apprehensive Dorothy and Delbert, who seem to be in a hurry. Delbert asks Esther to urgently come with them, as there's a problem that has arisen within the mansion. He catches her up to speed, informing her that ever since she was gone, the mansion has been in chaos, and it's best for her to go to the conference room as soon as possible. As they both stand in front of the conference room door, they are greeted by Ben, who is ecstatic upon seeing Esther, claiming that he and her father didn't get enough sleep because the latter was so worried about her. He then informs Daewin, who's inside the conference room, the room absolutely oozing with a grim atmosphere by the way, that Esther has arrived. Upon seeing her, it's as if a switch has been flicked and the mood changes to bubbly. Everyone in the room bursts into joy as they thank Esther for coming home, saying their meeting ended early. Daewin then opens his arms, signaling Esther to come to him and embrace him. He welcomes her home. Once they settle, Daewin asks if there was a problem that arose during their journey. Esther initially thinks of telling him about what happened at Dolores' shop, but decides not to. Later that evening, Daewin carries Esther back to her room, telling her that she should rest after the tiring journey. Daewin is pleased that his daughter no longer feels guarded around him. Afterward, Daewin summons Victor and asks for a report of everything that has happened during their journey. After hearing the full report, Daewin says they'll investigate the temple further, and as for the clothing boutique, everyone involved will be punished accordingly. After reporting everything, Victor musters up the courage to finally ask Daewin for permission to become Esther's permanent bodyguard. Of course, Daewin is not amused upon hearing that Victor wants to continue working as Esther's bodyguard. As an overprotective father, he menacingly asks why someone would want to be their daughter's bodyguard. He then points out the fact that Victor initially wanted to solidify his position among the knights, to which Victor agrees. At the same time, he also feels that it is an honor to serve Esther and notes that he really doesn't have any ulterior motives. After careful consideration, Daewin agrees to make Victor Esther's official bodyguard for a year. With that, Victor will be held accountable if anything happens to her. After Victor leaves, Daewin wonders what prompted this sudden change in him. Ben then enters the room, heeding Daewin's summons. He is asked to facilitate the setup of a new branch of the Miracle Clothing Boutique on Lily Street because Esther is fond of their designs. Well, it wouldn't be that easy. Apparently, 4 months ago, Daewin had already rejected the idea of setting up a new branch for that boutique because he thought it wasn't necessary. But now that Esther likes it, he has changed his mind. Meanwhile, on the way out, Victor can't help but tremble in fear. However, this feeling recedes once he ponders how Esther might react after hearing this news. He then sees Dorothy, and just as he's about to greet her, he is met with an annoyed look. Elsewhere, Rafian is visiting the cabin where Noah resides. She currently feels pathetic since the only person she can share her happiness with is a fiancé who doesn't even like her. But she believes that once she becomes the saintess, Noah's attitude towards her will change. As she enters the room, she notices an eerie atmosphere. No one is inside. She thinks that somebody might have kidnapped him, but shortly after, she stumbles upon a letter informing her that she shouldn't look after him anymore. Rafian feels insulted, noting that his disrespect towards her even has limits. She then tells her servant to immediately locate Noah. Regardless of the reason for his disappearance, the important thing is that he will be found. She still believes that Noah can't escape her clutches because he can never get away from the god's curse. And because of that, Noah will long for her forever. Dorothy shares with Esther what kind of man Victor is. Though she's a bit doubtful about this, because of so many anecdotes from Dorothy's friends, Esther can't help but wonder if Victor is handsome at all. She can't tell because her standards are high when it comes to having gorgeous men around her. Shortly, Victor arrives and tries to explain himself, although it's embarrassing for him. However, his attempt to explain only causes Dorothy to be even more annoyed at him. Esther, without paying them any attention, goes to Bem Bem and its child, Sure, in order to feed them. Apparently, while she was at the temple, Bem Bem had already given birth. Shortly after, Judy arrives with a letter and gives it to her. The letter contains an invitation from Sebastian, inviting the Tercia siblings to dinner. Shocked, Esther asks why, to which Judy responds that Sebastian has been meaning to apologize to her. Esther is visibly uncomfortable, which is why Judy tells her that she doesn't have to go if she doesn't want to, even noting that she isn't obligated to accept Sebastian's apology. She is then reminded of what Cespia told her to strengthen her power. With this in mind, she can't afford to rupture her relations with other prominent families within the Empire. With that, she decides that she'll accept the invitation. Dorothy asks if she's really okay with seeing Sebastian, but Esther reassures her, saying that she doesn't have to worry about it. And this is true because the fact of the matter is that things are different now. Esther now has a family. At the B-Cell Duchy, Sebastian is annoyingly waiting for the Tercia siblings. Shortly after, Judy and Esther arrive. As Sebastian awaits them, he can't help but blush upon seeing Esther, greatly confusing the two. Sebastian's first impression of Esther is that she's a scrawny little kid. He wonders where and why Judy found this little scrawny girl to have as a sister, making him think that this is a plot to make his little sister Jenny envious. This is the reason why Sebastian mistreated her. But now he's blushing so much upon seeing Esther. He can't believe that this cute lady is the same girl he bullied before. Sebastian's heart is racing so fast, and he can almost not contain himself. Judy then introduces him to his little sister. Esther introduces herself, expecting a proper response from him, but she doesn't get that as Sebastian avoids looking at her. While Esther thinks that he still probably hates her, this couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is that he's too flustered to even look at her. Judy then leaves the two of them to greet Sebastian's mother. Now, Esther and Sebastian are left alone, and the awkward tension couldn't be more obvious between the two. Or rather, more on Sebastian's side. He finally musters the courage to apologize, but that's not without him asking her to look away so he won't fumble his apology. A while later, Esther and Sebastian follow Judy, and Esther introduces herself to the Duchess and expresses her appreciation for the invitation. The Duchess then also apologizes on behalf of her son and explains that he's not entirely a bad person. The Duchess can't help but stare at Esther, claiming that she resembles Irene so much, a name Esther is not familiar with. Shortly after, the Duchess is summoned somewhere, so she asks Sebastian to tour the guests. Judy reveals that Irene is their mother, who passed away after they were born. This makes Esther contemplate Daywin's intention for adopting her. Shortly after, a commotion arises. Jenny has a fever that won't go down. As Esther looks at the scene, she notices that dark energy is occupying the room. Drawn by the commotion, Judy and Esther weave through the crowd. There, Sebastian nervously wrings his hands as he tells them that Jenny has been unwell since morning. His voice trembles with worry, and it is clear the doctor's bafflement has left the Bassel family deeply anxious. While Esther listens, a shadowy aura coils around Jenny, visible only to her. Instantly, she recognizes the telltale signs of a Katu disease, a rare and lethal omen of the god's curse. Its symptoms masquerade as a simple cold or measles, but soon the curse starts to siphon away the victim's life, ending in death. Only the prayer of a high priest or the touch of a saint can break its grip. Surrounded by so many onlookers, Esther hesitates, fearing that helping might expose who she truly is. As the tension rises, the doctor suggests that the Bassel family seek help from the local temple priest. Madame Bassel's face tightens with skepticism. Noticing Esther's curious look, Judy quietly explains that the Bassel family and the temple have a strained relationship. Shortly after, Judy catches Esther looking unsettled and fears she might be falling ill as well. Esther quickly reassures him, then quietly asks if she can spend a moment alone with Jenny. Judy nods, sensing something unspoken. When Madame Bassel returns, she finds Jenny healthy in Esther's arms, her relief flooding the room. Once calm returns and they share a meal, Madame Bassel warmly thanks Esther for watching over Jenny when everyone else had to leave so suddenly. Meanwhile, as everyone begins to relax, Sebastian is spellbound by Esther's beauty and quiet strength. Judy catches his lingering gaze, fixes him with a sharp glare, and murmurs a warning that makes Sebastian shrink back, chastened. Judy is truly the most protective brother. Later that evening, while Madame Bassel and Esther share a hushed conversation, Sebastian nervously edges towards Judy to ask who will dance with Esther at his birthday. Before he can finish, Judy cuts him off, his voice sharp and final. With a fierce look, he insists that only he and Denise will partner with Esther, refusing to let anyone else near. The cold force in Judy's words leaves Sebastian shivering with unease. Soon after, with the conversation behind them, the carriage rattles along. Esther catches sight of the Lamprous River, the great waterway threading through Tercia and Basel to the Empire's heart. She notes aloud how the river's waterline has sunk alarmingly low. Even this mighty river now has stretches that resemble mere trickling streams, hinting that it may be drying up. Hearing Esther's concern, Judy confides that he overheard their father discussing the issue with Ben. It appears a drought is creeping into the regional territories, and the smaller rivers are suffering just as badly. Esther asks whether the temples are fulfilling Austin's prayer, wondering whether the high priest will intervene now that the saintess is bedridden. She worries about hardships for the poor on the borders. Judy turns to Esther and asks if she can use her power to restore the Lamprous River. The question makes Esther's heart race as she realizes Judy might already suspect her secret. She quickly asks if Judy knows something about her abilities. Judy admits he already knows about Esther's power and has even witnessed it himself. Panic flares inside Esther as she asks if he plans to turn her over to the temple, where those with divine gifts are forced to stay. Judy shakes his head, reassuring her that she is still his sister and vowing not to let anyone take her away. What a devoted brother! Meanwhile, the Archduke arrives at Harstal. The guards whisper. The Grand Duke's late-night visit suggests urgency. Leaving the guards behind, the Archduke heads straight for the slums of Harstal, his true reason for coming. Weeks earlier, Ben reported that Esther's past could only be traced as far back as her arrival at the temple. Every record before that had vanished, and the only lead came from the priest who bought her for a pittance. With no other clues, the Archduke now searches the Harstal slums himself, determined to uncover the truth about Esther and see if his suspicion is right. I can't shake the feeling that Irene might be Esther's real mother. Later, deep in the forest near the slums, the Archduke's group stumbles upon a suspicious old man. Their instincts prove right when they uncover treasure hidden behind the rocks. Without hesitation, the Archduke commands Ben and his men to seize everyone in the village, realizing these are not ordinary citizens, but members of a band of thieves. After the capture, the Archduke gathers everyone and interrogates their leader, demanding to know if he ever saw or sold a girl with pink eyes in the village. The man quickly denies it, admitting they have trafficked many people before. Unsatisfied, the Archduke threatens to slit his throat. The terrified leader insists he remembers nothing, explaining that Lucifer handled all the transactions and abandoned them years ago after selling the last of the children. Seeing the man knows nothing, the Archduke takes a familiar necklace and instructs Ben to kill them all. The Archduke gazes at the necklace, recalling when he gave it to her and her promise to cherish it. He never expected to find his gift this way. The next day, Esther frets over what to give her brothers for their birthday. Dennis already owns the grandest library of books. Judy has gathered every prize collection he could wish for. The two boys seem to have everything their hearts desire. Dorothy glances at Esther. Her mind swirls with worry and frustration. She feels helpless, unable to offer any helpful suggestions, and silently wishes she could ease her friend's burden. Dorothy shoots Victor a sharp look as he arrives. He immediately notices. Flustered and a bit shy, he quietly asks her to stop. Clearly, there is a spark between these two. Esther interrupts the bickering and asks Victor for advice on what to get Judy. Victor has been spending more time sparring with Judy lately. Puffing up with pride, he suggests she buy Judy an expensive, ornate wooden sword. Esther's face falls, her disappointment clear. Victor's suggestion does not meet her hopes. With no other ideas, Esther declares to Dorothy and Victor that she will head to the bustling shopping district on Odar Street. This catches them both off guard. She's determined to go the extra mile for her brothers. They are precious to her and gave her a new beginning. That is why she wants their gifts to be truly special. Once they arrive at Odar Street, Dorothy suggests Esther start at the renowned antique district, hoping she might discover the perfect gift for Dennis there. After Esther is walking, she is surprised when a man steps in front of her. She realizes it's Noah. Dorothy and Victor instantly run to Esther, but she quickly assures him that she knows the man and wants to. Esther scolds Noah for leaving the holy sanctuary. She's worried it could harm his health. Noah simply replies that he has been waiting for her. She never returned. Now he lives in Tercia just to see her. He even offers to help her choose gifts for her brothers. Meanwhile, Fallon and Benjamin watched as their master, Noah, seemed to melt into a gentler, happier version of himself whenever Esther was near. Benjamin suddenly understood why Noah had kept him so occupied with errands since they arrived. Each time Noah caught sight of Esther, his eyes lit up, and a new energy seemed to fill him. Benjamin recalled how rare it once was to see Noah smile. But now, thanks to the remarkable Esther, those smiles came effortlessly. Esther began searching for a gift for her brother, her expression thoughtful and focused. Watching her, Noah confessed with a playful grin that he felt jealous of her brother, seeing how much care she put into choosing his present. He teased that he hoped she would be just as thoughtful when picking out a gift for him. The flirtatious remark made Esther blush, her cheeks warming at Noah's unexpected charm. As Esther and Noah shared a quiet moment, Victor, observing from nearby, could not resist asking Dorothy if Noah was Esther's boyfriend. Dorothy quickly shook her head, explaining that Esther had already made it clear. Noah was just a friend. If Esther's brothers ever saw her with another man, they would surely lose their composure. After this exchange, Esther invited Noah to her brother's birthday party, but he politely declined, explaining that he was still busy with his transfers. Before they parted, Noah handed Esther his new address in Tercia. Esther accepted it with a shy smile and promised to bring some holy water when she visited. Later that night, after returning from the day's events, Benjamin reported to Noah that there had been movement from the Brown family. Lavian, a candidate for saintess from the Browns, was searching for Noah, even though she had been told not to seek him out. Benjamin also mentioned that Viscount Mahler had requested a meeting with Noah soon, while Baron Gustav, who ran a trade company, had asked for a little more time. Afterward, Noah instructed Benjamin to keep reaching out to the rising nobles and members of the Emperor's faction, but reminded him not to mention his name. The next day, Esther arrives at practice with James, who beams at her improvement and calls her exceptional. Esther glows at his praise, her gratitude blooming after weeks of preparing for her brother's party. Yet a flicker of anxiety crosses her face as she quietly admits to James her lingering fear of slipping up. Noticing, James reassures her that she's mastered every step. Seeing her scuffed shoes, he gently asks if she's been practicing for hours. Blushing with pride and embarrassment, Esther confesses she won't waste a single lesson. James, moved by her dedication, recalls his initial misjudgment, believing Esther too delicate for the challenge. His thoughts shift as he considers how her determination, hunger to learn, and surprising creativity have changed his view. When the topic of her dance partner for the ball arises, Esther's expression turns uncertain. Sensing her confusion, James gently suggests she invite her brother to be her partner, hoping to ease her worries. Later, the Tercia family gathers as Ben outlines plans for the party at Lewis Hall. Judy suggests Esther join the grand entrance, and Dennis agrees. Ben checks with the Grand Duke, who nods in approval, as do his sons. The Grand Duke then asks if Esther wishes to display her painting during the festivities. Blushing, Esther quietly agrees. As Judy and Dennis playfully debate which brother will dance with her, Esther laughs and suggests both. The boys happily agree. How can you not love the family dynamics? The next day, as Esther steps into the dress boutique, she is enveloped by the Merzel owner's radiant warmth. The owner's genuine excitement catches Esther off guard, filling her chest with an unfamiliar sense of belonging. The owner explains she traveled here specifically for Esther's fitting, since Esther is the very reason the Grand Duke allowed a branch to open on Lilith Street in Tercia. Inside the boutique's private showroom, Esther is dazzled by the breathtaking gowns on display. After a few moments of admiring their beauty, she selects her top 3 favorites. When the owner sees Esther's choices, she praises her, noting that these are the most sought-after designs among the elite. As they take Esther's measurements, the owner comments that the red dress suits her best, and Dolores, along with the others, agrees. The owner realizes she is witnessing the next social trend, since both Esther and the princess favor the same styles. She confides, however, that she hasn't seen the princess since news spread of the 7th prince's mysterious illness. The mention of the princess pulls Esther into memories of her previous life, recalling how Lavian drained her powers to restore her own strength and heal the 7th prince, the emperor's most beloved son. Quickly shaking off the memory, Esther promises never to let it happen again. She then reflects on how the Austin Empire is protected by the goddess Espitos. The temple's power is so great that it rivals the imperial families, forcing the royals to keep it in check for years. For a long time, the imperial family has been unable to refuse the temple summons. With this realization, Esther feels the burden of responsibility settle over her. She must cure the 7th prince to free the imperial family from the temple's grip. Frustration wells inside her as she tries in vain to learn the prince's name. Who really is the 7th prince? Later, back in her room, Esther continues working on a painting. When she hears Judy approaching, panic rises within her. She cannot let him see what she is doing. In her haste, she quickly pushes Judy out, and they both stumble in the hallway. When Esther last saw Noah, he suggested she give her brothers one of her drawings as a gift. Esther doubted her art was special, but Noah assured her any present from someone dear would bring happiness. Now, Esther is doing everything she can to keep her brother Judy from entering her room, where she has hidden their surprise. Judy grows suspicious and tries to peek inside, so Esther desperately tries to push him out. But no matter how hard she tries, Judy stands his ground, unmoved. Dennis soon arrives, his curiosity piqued by the commotion, and asks what Esther and Judy are up to. Esther's anxiety grows, knowing it will be even harder to keep both boys out of her room. Luckily, Dennis immediately takes Esther's side, even without knowing the reason. Esther quickly assures both Dennis and Judy that it's nothing serious, and promises to reveal it soon. Dennis finds Esther's determination endearing and nearly teases her, but instead, Dennis sides with Esther and tells Judy to stop bothering her. Afterward, Judy asks Esther to show them her power again, and she agrees. As Esther manipulates the water, both Judy and Dennis watch in awe. Dennis then gently reminds Judy not to ask Esther to use her abilities too often, since someone might see, and Esther could be put in danger. Next, Judy feels something on his legs, and upon checking, he sees Bem Bem, Esther's snake pet, making Judy quickly exit the room. So much for putting up a brave front, Judy. Alone, Esther looks at the family portrait she drew and feels like she belongs and feels happy. The next morning, Esther directs the servants to load bottles of water onto the carriage in preparation for her visit to Noah. As the servants heft the boxes onto the cart, Dorothy, watching the unusual number of bottles being packed, asks Esther why they need so many when water is plentiful along the way. Esther only smiles, concealing the fact that each bottle contains holy water she has prepared specifically for Noah, just as she promised to bring when she visited his new home. Esther feels reassured as she surveys the bottles, certain that this much holy water will protect Noah and keep him safe for quite some time. A short while later, the carriage arrives at the address Noah gave Esther. Looking out the window, Esther notices the house is close to the mine the Grand Duke gifted her. She briefly wonders if this location was a deliberate part of Noah's plan, but lacking proof, she pushes the thought aside and leaves the carriage. As they approach the estate, Noah notices them and promptly greets them at his home. Esther explains that she is only stopping by to fulfill her promise to Noah. In response, Noah remarks that she is welcome to visit any time, even without a specific reason. Esther shyly declines, maintaining a formal tone. Ugh, Noah is such a flirt! Fallon soon emerges from the house to greet Esther and her group. Noah gestures to Fallon, asking him to bring the boxes of holy water inside on Esther's behalf. Afterward, Noah asks Esther directly if she can show him her mine. Esther responds eagerly and agrees to lead the way. Upon arriving at the mine, Greg steps forward to meet them, greeting Esther and Noah. He begins by updating Esther on recent developments and the mine's current status. As they venture deeper into the mine, Noah is surprised to find Esther digging for diamonds by hand. He has only ever seen nobles oversee their mines from afar, never getting involved themselves. Esther beams at Noah and calls him over, insisting that digging is more fun than it seems. When Noah expresses concern that she might hurt herself, Esther only laughs, promising that the right technique makes it easy. She notes that some parts of the mine are soft and easy to dig. Glancing around, Noah is startled to see Esther's servants digging beside her. With a mischievous grin, Esther explains she lets them keep any diamonds they find. Inspired, Noah asks if he can try mining. Esther hesitates, unsure if he can handle it, but Noah assures her he's ready for the challenge. After a few minutes, Noah's muscles ache, but he refuses to stop. Impressed, Esther steps in to teach him how to use the pickaxe properly. Noah watches in awe as Esther expertly handles the pickaxe and praises her. Esther grins, declaring that hard work is what she does best. Later, as they rest from their efforts in the mine, Noah admits to Esther that he is enjoying her company. Esther's cheeks flush pink, and she quickly tells Noah to stop saying such strange things. Meanwhile, at the Duke Braun's estate, the maids report to the Duke that Lavienne is locked in her room, throwing a tantrum and skipping her Saintess training. The Duke confronts her, scolding Lavienne for neglecting her lessons and letting her obsession with Noah distract her. Obsession can destroy you, girl! The Duke reminds her that if she becomes a Saintess, she can choose any man she wants, whether it is the 7th Prince or Noah. Before leaving, he also asks La Vienne to find out if there's a child named Esther in the temple. Back at the mine, Noah unearths a sparkling diamond and with a hopeful grin asks Esther if she likes jewelry or already owns a ring. Esther, displaying her usual innocence, admits she's not fond of jewelry. Noah shows her the diamond he just found and offers to make her a ring. This causes a brief panic for Dorothy and Victor, but their worries subside when Esther gently declines, explaining she already has plenty of jewelry. The next morning, with memories of the mine still lingering, Dorothy rushes to wake Esther. Her voice tinged with urgency, she warns that Esther will be late for the birthday celebration unless she starts getting ready. As Esther blinks awake, excitement dawns on her face. Today is finally the grand party everyone has been preparing for! While Esther dresses, Dorothy chatters about the day's schedule and describes how the procession to the territory will unfold. She skillfully helps Esther with her hair and makeup, adding a touch of elegance to the morning. Once Esther is ready, she makes her way to the exhibit room and finds Helbert inspecting the space. Helbert admires the beauty of Esther's artwork, confessing that while he may not be an expert, he is certain her creations are truly exceptional. Esther thanks Helbert and asks if her surprise artwork is still hidden from her family. He reassures her with a smile that it remains secure until the reveal. After her conversation with Helbert, as Esther arrives outside, she instantly sees Judy and Dennis in their formal attire, and she can't help but notice that they look just like their father. He also arrives just in time, since the Grand Duke gently lifts Esther into the carriage, where her brothers are already waiting for her. What an endearing family they make! Esther wants to give Judy and Dennis something before they arrive at their destination. The two seem to be curious about what it could be. It's something she has handcrafted lately. The two appreciate it so much and gladly wear it with astonished faces. Moments later, she feels a weird feeling from her dad's gaze. Of course, she wouldn't forget a gift for him either. He suppresses his joy, which she can sense as well, and takes it as a compliment. I love how adorable these characters can be! As they voyage to the village, the two argue over which one's better, but there is no need to do that because Esther did the same for everyone. Despite that, their father likes the noise since it's something that was missing last year. Thanks to Esther, the environment has become more positive. Later on, they finally arrived at the village, replenished with tremendous activities. The two remind Esther of the blessing. The petals grab her attention, which she later scatters everywhere for the blessing. People feel the warm energy she radiates. Meanwhile, the next day, back in the palace, Esther is welcomed by Madame Dolores, who doesn't have time to chit-chat because she urgently needs to style her for the party. Thereafter, during the makeover, she is finally accompanied to set foot at the party. Time doesn't exist here for dear Esther. Before she leaves, she's surprised to be gifted a high-grade diamond necklace. No doubt, Esther thought of Noah, who delivered it to her. Coincidentally, the necklace matches her dress, therefore she tries it on and it actually does. Victor comes in and notices the dazzling aura from her, which leaves him in awe. Everybody in the function will surely fall in love with her. Esther looks at herself in the mirror. She's not Dinah, who was pressed anymore. She's now Esther, who understands fulfillment. That's right! We love self-worth here! The room is filled with classy people left and right. A group of ladies talk about the sudden announcement the Duke will make regarding his adopted child, Esther. They fawn over his visuals, fueling their fantasies as they progress the conversation. Suddenly, Alicia tells them more about a rumor she heard regarding the child's whereabouts and pushes overboard. Kane hops in, which startles her. He wants to know more, but actually, he suspects her. Meanwhile, Judy seems to be more anxious than ever following this introduction for his sister. Esther catches him and asks what's wrong. Later on, he grabs her hand as a way to ease the tension. Later on, the Duke finally announces the big news. As they step out of the limelight, he introduces them one by one. Some might have already known about the news, but now it's public. Introducing Esther de Tercia, a brand new addition to the family and their pride and joy. The crowd obsesses over her demeanor. Esther expected far worse than this. Fortunately, they loved her in an instant. Their father greets them with a happy birthday, including her. Later on, Dennis announces how fast rumors can spread about her, saying how on earth she was even adopted in the first place, considering her extensive whereabouts. But it won't be a nuisance anymore, since she's a precious part of the family. Esther is filled with overflowing joy that has replaced her anxiety. This is where she realized that a loving family was always possible to achieve. Now she has one. After that, the party finally begins. Ladies notice the Duke's affection towards the princess when he fed her fruit from the cake. A simple act, and yet it touched many hearts. And more importantly, he's not afraid to show it. We love a caring father. Kane continues suspecting Esther. He really feels like she's one of a kind, considering her origin and her mannerisms at the moment. It really makes you wonder who she really is and where she came from. But he doesn't want to jump to a conclusion just yet. For now, he must stay vigilant and quiet. Hope your head will not hurt from investigating too much. It's finally time for the dance. Usually, it's just both Dennis and Judy. Now that Esther's here, it's time for the three of them to dance together. She's quite skeptical about the idea, but just like she practiced and being surrounded by loving brothers, everything will fall into place perfectly. Furthermore, the warmth of their hands and considerate steps reassure her not to be frightened. Smiles filled the room as they moved gracefully across the floor, carrying out the dance as if they had practiced it 100 times before. Every turn, step, and glance flowed naturally together, making the performance feel less like a formal presentation and more like a living piece of art. The soft music, elegant atmosphere, and warm lights made the moment feel almost unreal. For a brief while, everyone in the room simply watches in silence, completely drawn into the scene unfolding before them. When the final movement came, applause followed almost immediately, and the room slowly came back to life. Soon after, the guests began joining the dance floor themselves while the performers stepped away from the center. The Duke quietly watched the three of them. He says nothing, but the look on his face softens in a way that reveals more than words could. He couldn't have been prouder of his daughter. Around the room, guests exchange compliments and admiration, many of them speaking highly of Esther and how beautifully she carries herself. For once, the attention didn't feel overwhelming. It felt earned. As she deserves. He approaches guests and asks them how they're feeling about the party. The Duke cannot hide his grin when they complimented each of his children, and especially Esther, who is the real star of the exhibit. All the guests share the same sentiment about her. He couldn't be more grateful for them. Suddenly, he remembered the gift Esther promised she would reveal at the exhibition hall that day. The Duke goes to the hall. It's a painting of his beautiful family. To his surprise, it was actually Esther who painted it with dedication and joy. She even titled it Family. As soon as he saw the painting, he could already sense the devotion from the lady. What a touching scene! Meanwhile, Esther finally escaped the function. Dealing with so many people isn't her forte. At that, so many people were so curious about her, making it extra overwhelming. Anyway, as she was about to rest, someone called her. However, she doesn't know who this is. Esther cannot pinpoint who this person is. After a while, he introduces himself. He is Sebastian Bassel. She finally recognizes him. He has changed a lot since he heard that Esther likes someone who takes care of themselves, although she cannot remember her ever saying that. Sebastian actually wants to dance with her. He lost weight and practiced a lot for this very moment. Esther hesitates to say no, but since she's really exhausted, she listens to her body and refuses politely. They both agree on dancing next time, and eventually, Esther can now enjoy her unrestrained time. She wants to relax so badly, and it's so relatable. Aimlessly, she thinks of Noah and his desire to dance with her. Little did she know they're about to meet in the flesh that night. He approaches her unannounced and grabs her hand. Noah hands her a bouquet and notices her necklace, which he gifted her when they mined together. He promises to give her a ring next time, which catches her off guard, but he wants her to accept it nonetheless. God, these lovebirds, I swear! The two roam around the garden and do a little catch-up. Esther can't contain herself. Her heart races when he is around. Noah then asks for the dance to be done there in the garden. She contemplates that idea, setting aside her emotions, but surely it's something Esther didn't know what she needed. Back inside, Judy looks for Esther since he wants to take the next dance with her. He looks around only to find a weeping Sebastian, who is actually Judy's fault for giving him false hope for Esther. Judy is surprised to know he still has feelings for his sister. He already gave him a warning beforehand not to. Apparently, Sebastian saw both Noah and Esther earlier, all happy, which he assumed was her boyfriend. Judy finds out and wants to ask her later about it. For now, he must deal with Sebastian. But his emotions got the best of him after being rejected, and he wants to eat a lot again. He is so real for that. Going back to the garden, the two dance, and the night couldn't be more perfect. Esther accidentally steps on Noah's foot, and he jokingly takes it personally and ends the dance, which flusters her. Noah did it on purpose to tease her since he loves the look on her face. Dancing with him in a secluded garden at night really makes Esther question a lot of things. Deep down, she treasures the moment. She thanks him for coming, even though he is required to stay hidden from the public, yet he showed up. Talk about determination and perseverance! Obviously he likes you! All roads lead to one question she was dying to ask, and that's who Noah is. The reason he came is that he wants to tell Esther that he was afraid of her pushing him away. He then introduces himself, the 7th Prince of the Austin Empire, Noah Van Austin. Then it finally dawned on her, it's the same Noah whom she admired. Noah is well aware of the rumors she heard about him, that he was cursed by the gods, and he apologizes for not addressing them way before when they met. The thing is, he kept them because he was terrified that things would change between them. Esther leaves speechless. It's not like she's angry, she's just overwhelmed that she's now figuring out a part of his vulnerability. Esther feels sympathy towards Noah because of the fact that he had to endure loneliness at such a young age. Nothing has changed from when they first met until now. She guarantees him that no matter who he is, they will continually remain friends. Noah is grateful for that response, but he wonders if they can be more than that. He's getting courageous! Now that the curse has been less of a burden to him, Noah yearns to accomplish what he desires. He reminds her about his promise at the cabin to help her. No matter the circumstances, he will always be with her. Later on, Dennis comes out to take a break from the overwhelming bluster inside. He sees Esther outside, but her face is suddenly all red. Dennis wants to confirm as to why that happened, but she gets all embarrassed and insists that he go inside immediately. Unmistakably, it's because of Noah. This day marked a promising remembrance for her that she will never forget. She's so adorable. Moments later, inside her room, Dorothy assists Esther to unwind and asks how the party went. After being tucked into bed, she asks if she did a great job earlier for confirmation. Dorothy answers gladly that she did. She guarantees that her happiness isn't momentary as long as they're all by her side. Esther can't stop thinking of Noah that night, who, by the way, was also monitoring her palace that night. He perseveres to meet her again, as soon as possible. Lavienne has searched for days regarding Esther's origins. Adoption records are not to be found inside the temple. Strangely enough, the girl she recognizes who really matches the clues from the news she garnered from the Duke who adopted the child is Dinah. Same brown hair, the saintess whom Lavienne is afraid might be true. Pointless thoughts load up her mind. There's no way a lowly noble will be a saintess when she is Duke Breon's daughter. Esther is just built differently, and we have to collectively agree on that. Moments later, Verdo knocks and barges in. He is here to tell her about Saintess Cespia's condition. Lavienne isn't, indeed, excited about it. She brings in the medicine and is flabbergasted to see the healthy Saintess. Her suspicious acts are not falling into place. Anyway, she still gives her the medicine. Lavienne is actually appointed as the next Saintess, which is why she was occupied recently. As she's about to give her the medicine, Cespia refuses abruptly, which shocks her. She asks her if there is a reason to take when the future for her is uncertain, but she cannot disappear yet. Aimlessly, Lavienne asks about the revelations from the goddess about the ash-brown-haired girl. Cespia acknowledges it as her mistake and notices how impatient Lavienne has been. However, no matter what, she is confident that Lavienne will become a great saintess in the future. The person who will fall together with the corrupted temple. Wait, pause. What does she mean? The morning after the tremendous celebration feels surreal for Esther, and her painting is hung up, which she didn't expect would be treasured by her family so much. Everything just feels like pure happiness for her, and with that, she's never been this glad and content. Aw, you definitely deserve it, Esther! After a while, Victor calls for Esther to be fetched by her dad. it's the first time she saw him in full uniform. He looked amazing in it. Today's going to be a special day since they will visit the Imperial Palace. His Majesty specifically wanted to see her. It won't be a smooth journey, but it'll be worth it. Before going there, she felt nervous, but her brothers assured her that it was nothing to be afraid of. Nothing special. Aside from that, Esther looks forward to seeing Noah. Therefore, that sparked her motivation to go. Anyway, as they travel to the place, she notices the vast rivers and how abundant it has been, leading her to wonder if it has ever experienced drought. Austin helped build dams along the river to evade drought. After that discussion, they finally arrived. Esther's eyes glimmer as she sees such a majestic palace. Now that she witnesses it in person, it feels overwhelming and surreal. Since there's still allotted time for Esther, she walks around the garden with Victor as her guard while the Duke attends the state meeting. The vibe feels fantastic for a stroll. Upon walking, she hears something strange, which interrupts the whole sensation. She heard a snore from a guy in the garden. Esther wonders why that could happen inside the Imperial Palace. The person looks entirely stunning. Esther mistakes him for Noah, but the height and aura don't match. He's actually the third prince of the Austin Empire, Prince Damon. She soon apologizes for the misunderstanding, but he acts all arrogant and brings up her being adopted. She clearly doesn't like the first impression and scrutinizes him for crossing the line. Furthermore, he comes closer and grabs her chin and tells her how she's nothing special. Damon is curious about how she was adopted by an extravagant family. Esther is clearly fed up with him and tries to avoid baseless questions for now, but Damon thinks of it as disrespect. If he wishes for the most candid answer, he should ask the Duke himself. That's right, Esther. Show him who's boss. Damon likes her boldness and leaves all of a sudden. Fortunately. Anyhow, as they now roam a bit more inside, Victor seems restless. He felt guilty for not stepping in more, while Damon shamelessly said those abrupt remarks. Esther guarantees him that she is fine knowing Victor is right with her the entire time. Victor wants to work harder for the young lady because protecting her is his commitment, and that is more than enough. Oh, stop. He's so precious. Moments later, Duke Tercia is finally done with his meeting, but there's something left to do, and that's for Esther to meet with the Emperor. The Emperor has been looking forward to meeting her since the favorable feedback from the party. Esther is apprehensive nonetheless. Meeting someone as powerful and honorable would make her blank out the entire time. They ultimately arrived at his doorstep and enter the private room together. The Emperor is astonished to see the young lady he's so curious about. However, Esther looks at him with a bizarre look. He either looks familiar or she's just underwhelmed. All those anxious thoughts led to this. The Holy Empire of Austin has its ups and downs. It had received protection from the goddess, becoming the most thriving empire of blessings on the mainland. Yet, wars were frequent to take hold of those blessings. The war occurred for hundreds of years, which resulted in the disappearance of the current emperor. The victory of the war in the Northern War was led by the Grand Duke, Daehan Tercia, explaining his incorruptible domestic governance. This era only became the only era where the imperial regime did not descend. Anyway, the emperor is so different from what Esther imagined. She has learned in Mr. James's class that he is a particularly remarkable person. The emperor introduces the pastries prepared for his dear guest one by one. He is so excited to meet Esther, that's why. He knew about her talent in art, as what James kept on boasting everywhere. Well, when you think about it, he isn't wrong. His Majesty further escalates the topic and even brings up the rumors about Daehan's devotion for Esther because of how intelligent and adorable she is. Ultimately, he halts and proceeds to change the subject. Esther shares her thoughts and opinions about the palace. She really likes the garden. The Emperor is glad to hear that because Esther should be fond of the palace from now on. She's a bit baffled about his message. It's too early to talk about marriage. His Majesty has a son, the 7th Prince, who is exactly the same age as Esther. She immediately thought of Noah as her face turned red. Her father tries to stop the discussion because of how sensitive this topic is for her at an early age. They depart together, but for sure this won't be their last meeting with the Emperor. She felt embarrassed. Oh, how precious. The Duke recommended that Esther visit the central garden, as it is filled with roses that blossom beautifully. She goes there alone since the garden is off limits and is mesmerized by how pretty the blooms are. Later on, she sees another unfamiliar face again, a lady with long dark hair. Could it be Princess Reina? The lady looks at Esther and is also confused about how she entered the garden. She quickly apologizes for the misunderstanding and introduces herself. But as soon as she speaks, the woman cries. It seems like she has a lot on her mind. Esther isn't familiar with this whole situation and freaks out, pleading for her father's assistance. It is as if flowers bloom around the two ladies, as Esther warmly apologizes to the woman who calls her adorable. The lady explains that Esther is one of the most talked about people in the capital after being adopted into the Grand Tercia Duchy. But Esther cannot help wondering if the third prince sees her the same way. The woman continues to praise her sincerity, but gently warns her that not everyone within the palace possesses kind intentions. Low-key, these two scream elegance. The woman then speaks about Noah. As the first imperial princess and Noah's family member, she reveals that after the seventh prince was cursed, she rarely had the chance to see him. The letters she sent never reached him, and she believes Noah resents the imperial family for doing nothing while he suffered in exile. Esther reassures her. She explains that Noah is kind-hearted and possesses a strong will to live. Because of that, she believes he would never allow himself to be consumed by resentment. Her words bring visible comfort to the princess, who agrees that Noah has never been the type to harbor grudges. When the princess notices how familiar Esther seems with Noah, Esther quickly clarifies that they are only friends. The woman then formally introduces herself as Reina van Austen, the first imperial princess. Wanting to hear more about Noah, Reina invites Esther to share tea with her. Seeing how deeply Reina cares for him, Esther finds herself missing Noah as well. Esther is part of the Yearner Club. Meanwhile, Noah realizes he has finally stopped having the strange dreams that have haunted him. Remembering Esther, he vows to become someone capable of protecting her. Benjamin soon arrives with a letter from the Imperial Palace, ordering Noah to return in preparation for future plans. Though worried about the dangers awaiting him, Benjamin listens as Noah confidently declares that he has changed and now possesses the courage to protect what is precious to him. Elsewhere, Esther becomes concerned about her pet snake, Bem Bem, whose condition continues to confuse her. Esther and Dennis search through the countless books hoping to understand Bem Bem's condition. No medical explanation seems to fit, leading Dennis to consider that the answer may lie in mythology rather than science. There are things that science can't explain after all. Their search eventually uncovers records about the spiritual goddess and the creatures blessed by divine power. According to legend, snakes touched by holy energy can develop crystal-like scales and become guardians against future calamities. Believing her holy power may have caused the transformation, Esther worries, but Dennis reassures her that the change is not harmful. Relieved, she decides to trust his judgment. Her thoughts soon drift to Saintess Cespia. Remembering the hardships the Saintess endured despite her devotion to the temple, Esther resolves to continue growing stronger no matter what challenges lie ahead. Concerned by the lack of news from the capital, Esther uses a magical object to check on the people she left behind. A golden light forms a vision of Cespia and Lavian. Though the image is faint, Cespia unexpectedly looks towards Esther and silently mouths that she is all right before the connection fades. The brief encounter leaves Esther encouraged. Holding the diamond mine, gifted by her father, she reflects on her future. Unlike Lavienne, who relies on powerful supporters, Esther intends to build her own strength and influence. Determined not to waste the opportunity Cespia gave her, she renews her resolve. That's our girl Esther! Meanwhile, Lavienne receives confirmation that Esther has completely changed from the girl she once knew. Though satisfied that her plans remain uncontested, she cannot shake a growing sense of unease. At night, the grand halls of the Imperial Palace shine brightly as Benjamin leads Noah toward the king's chambers. Noah realizes it has been years since he last stood before his father. If I were Noah, I would tremble with pressure. The king observes that Noah appears healthier than before. Though his expression remains stern, Noah can sense genuine concern behind it. As a child, he would have resented his father's distance, but now he understands the burdens carried by the ruler of an empire. The king asks whether Noah truly wishes to return to palace life. Even if his health has improved, many challenges still await him. The palace is constantly changing, and reclaiming his position would place him against the third prince's faction as well as powerful forces within the temple. Knowing all of this, does he still wish to return? Noah simply smiles. The king immediately understands the answer. Benjamin's reports about Noah's growth were true. Noah explains that he has begun gathering allies and intends to support the emerging reformist faction. Although many conservative nobles oppose change, he already has plans in motion. Noah is the type to not settle for mediocrity. He then requests 3 years. By the time he turns 16, he promises to prove himself worthy of standing among the contenders for the throne. Trusting his son's determination, the king agrees, though he warns that he cannot hold back Noah's opponents forever. Noah gratefully accepts the challenge. Time passes quickly. Winter arrives once again, bringing another year to a close. At the Tercia estate, preparations are underway for Dennis's return. The maids rush around the mansion, still busy from Judy's recent visit. One maid remarks that Esther has grown taller once again. Now 15 years old, Esther eagerly awaits her brother's arrival. The maid fondly comments on how different Judy looks these days, and notes that next spring will mark Esther's 4th year since arriving at Tercia. The head of House Tercia finally returns home. As regal as ever, he immediately requests that his children be gathered in his study. Alongside news of their arrival, his men report that contamination along the borders has become increasingly severe, and that even the royal family struggles to contain it. When he sees Judy, now 17, the Grand Duke cannot help noticing how much his son has matured. During their conversation, Judy mentions that Esther has spent much of her time focused on a particular project. If the ladies were to see Judy, they would squeal. Elsewhere, Esther continues researching ways to expand her mining business. She plans to use the diamond mine as the foundation for future ventures. When her father unexpectedly visits her room, she immediately rushes forward and embraces him. Excitedly, she explains her tourism plans surrounding the mine. Though she never formally reported her progress, her father already knows of her success through reports from his men. Watching her growth in both intelligence and business skill, he feels immense pride. What can Esther not do? That evening, the family gathers around a lavish dining table. Dennis shares stories about his studies and adventures, while everyone reflects on how much has changed over the past 3 years. Judy has earned knighthood, Dennis's talents have been recognized by imperial officials, and Esther's mining business continues to flourish. Eventually, discussion turns toward the worsening contamination at the borders. Monsters unseen for decades have begun appearing once more. Esther remembers that if matters continue worsening, the Saintess may need to intervene. Yet, despite there already being a Saintess in the Empire, the contamination continues spreading unchecked. Later, Esther prepares a basin of holy water and attempts to contact Saintess Cespia. However, no matter how hard she tries, the connection refuses to form. Unable to contact Cespia and hearing no news from the temple, Esther becomes increasingly uneasy. One night, she awakens from a nightmare depicting a ruined empire. Believing it to be a warning, she immediately begins preparing for an approaching disaster. As she studies the stigmata on her hand, another possibility emerges. If she received the vision, perhaps Cespia did as well. Could the Saintess be in danger? Rushing to reconnect through holy water, Esther is horrified when the holy water suddenly turns blood red. Meanwhile, Lavian visits Cespia's chambers. Though the Saintess has lingered on the brink of death for years, she remains alive. She comments on her wavering spirit, but she is frustrated as Lavian accuses her of never revealing the identity of the next Saintess. Cespia will bring the truth to her deathbed. Certain that victory is finally within reach, Lavian reveals that she has poisoned Cespia. She declares that once the Saintess dies, nobody will stop her from claiming the position. Even in her final moments, Cespia refuses to acknowledge her. As her life fades, a tremendous surge of holy power erupts throughout the room. Though unsettled by the phenomenon, Lavian quickly dismisses her concerns. In her mind, the outcome remains the same. The Saintess is dead. Lavian immediately adopts the role of a grieving disciple and announces Cespia's death to the temple. Her performance convinces everyone. She would have a more successful career as an actress than a Saintess. As preparations for the funeral begin, Lavian claims that the late Saintess entrusted her with carrying on her legacy. Soon, news of Cespia's passing spreads throughout the Empire. a period of mourning is declared, while the truth remains hidden within the temple. The news eventually reaches House Tercia. Knowing Esther's connection to the temple, her family is unsurprised by how deeply the loss affects her. After hearing the news, Esther spends her time wandering through the gardens. She remembers Cespia's guidance and wishes she had been strong enough to help her. Victor eventually finds her, and Judy soon joins them. After listening to her concerns, Judy suggests that some may try to bring her back to the temple as the next saintess. He reassures her that she does not need to worry about such decisions yet. When Esther wonders whether Cespia truly died peacefully, Judy encourages her not to dwell on unanswered questions, and instead focus on moving forward. After some reflection, Esther finally agrees and follows him back inside. The Empire mourns Saintess Cespia's passing, with people honoring her through both traditional and personal acts of remembrance. Esther arrives at the temple for the funeral, accompanied by Victor. Though she initially expected her father to refuse her request to attend, she eventually convinced him, wanting to pay her final respects to the woman who changed her life. Inside, priests and nobles offer hyacinths before Cespia's casket. Esther quietly places her flower and prays. As she mourns, she notices Lavian watching her from a distance. Before Esther can leave, Lavian stops her and asks whether they have met before. Wanting to avoid a long conversation, Esther briefly introduces herself as Esther Tercia, mentioning her past connection to the temple and her adoption into the Grand Duchy. Lavian appears surprised by her response and attempts to continue the conversation, but Esther politely declines, saying her father may be looking for her. After offering a blessing, she leaves, leaving Lavian unsettled. May the unease in Lavian's stomach eat her! Unbeknownst to them, a man observes the entire exchange. As Victor escorts Esther back to the carriage, she realizes she no longer feels as timid as before. She now has people she wants to protect and reasons to stay strong. Their path is suddenly blocked by royal knights. Victor immediately steps forward, but before tensions rise, the observer reveals himself. Prince Damon wishes to speak with Esther. Esther finds herself completely confused by Prince Damon's sudden interest. The prince immediately brings up her brief conversation with Lavian, admitting that he was intrigued by the encounter. From his perspective, it was unusual to see the proud daughter of Baron Braun appear so unsettled after speaking with someone. That's Esther for you! Esther explains that Lavian was simply one of the people she knew during her time at the temple. Beyond that, she has little to say. Damon, however, seems more interested in Esther herself. He points out how fearless she is, noting that even during their first meeting, she spoke to him directly without showing the usual nervousness people display around royalty. Esther hurriedly apologizes if she ever appeared disrespectful, but Damon only laughs. To her shock, he takes her hand and kisses the back of it. He casually remarks that as long as their interests align, he would not mind becoming engaged to her in the future. In his eyes, there could be no better match than a crown prince and the daughter of the Grand Duke. Damon, the matchmaker no one asked for. Esther immediately tries to pull away, but Damon continues speaking as though the matter is already under consideration. He even mentions discussing the possibility with her father. At that exact moment, the Grand Duke arrives. The atmosphere instantly grows tense. Seeing his daughter's hand still in Damon's grasp, the Grand Duke's expression darkens. Damon releases her but continues hinting at a future engagement. Rather than being pleased, the Grand Duke becomes visibly irritated. He points out that the position of Crown Prince is far from secure. Rumors have already begun circulating about another potential contender, and until the succession is settled, any discussion of marriage is premature. Tell him, Grand Duke! Damon immediately emphasizes the difference in rank between himself and the Grand Duke, unwilling to concede the argument. Though the conversation remains outwardly polite, neither side appears willing to back down. Eventually, the Grand Duke ends the discussion. Whatever Damon's intentions may be, Esther remains his precious daughter, and no future arrangements will be decided lightly. The Grand Duke personally vows to deal with the consequences himself. His overprotective declarations continue one after another, sounding less like the words of a feared noble and more like those of a concerned father. Esther cannot help laughing as he continues ranting about all the ways he intends to protect her. More than anything, she feels. As the carriage travels through the night, Esther reflects on everything Victor revealed. The rumors surrounding a new contender for the throne leave her almost certain of one thing. The candidate must be Noah. I just know her heartbeat is flickering at the thought of him. The possibility fills her with excitement. Hearing that Noah has gained support among influential factions and that few openly oppose him only strengthens her belief. It seems he has truly kept the promise he once made to become stronger. Sitting beside her, the Grand Duke suddenly asks about her relationship with Prince Damon. Esther quickly explains that they have only met a few times and that there is nothing more between them. Seeing the displeased expression on her father's face, she cannot help finding his protectiveness somewhat amusing. The Grand Duke explains that while the final decision will always belong to her, he wants her to someday be with someone who genuinely cherishes her. Esther assures him that she has no intention of thinking about marriage anytime soon. For now, her family is more important than anything else. Her answer visibly pleases him. The thought of her getting engaged aged him by 10 years. A few days later, Esther requests a private meeting with her father. Gathering every ounce of courage she possesses, she finally reveals the secret she has carried for years. She is the true saintess. Esther explains that her awakening occurred long before she was adopted into House Tercia. To prove her claim, she channels holy power into a nearby potted plant, causing it to flourish instantly. She recounts how nobody in the temple believed her and how La Vienne dismissed her completely. Despite preparing herself for disbelief, her father never hesitates. The Grand Duke immediately assures her that he trusts her completely. Rather than questioning her words, he praises the courage it took for her to finally share the truth. He promises that no matter what happens, he will stand by her side. Overwhelmed by emotion, Esther rushes forward and embraces him. For the first time across 2 lifetimes, she feels what it is like to have someone wholeheartedly choose her side. The Grand Duke wastes no time making his position clear. He firmly assures Esther that as long as she remains within House Tercia, nobody will be allowed to harm her. If anyone dares to be relieved, no matter what secrets she carries, her family accepts her completely. Can someone get the Duke the Most Overprotective Award? As the succession ceremony for the next Saintess approaches, events within the temple move forward as well. Prince Damon requests a meeting with La Vienne. From La Vienne's perspective, supporting Damon could secure her influence if he eventually ascends the throne. Yet she remains cautious due to the sudden emergence of a new candidate in the succession struggle. Her thoughts are interrupted when Priest Lucas arrives. He reassures her that the temple continues supporting Damon's faction and encourages her to focus on securing her own position. Confidently, La Vienne displays the sacred key entrusted to her and promises that she will not fail them. Soon afterward, they enter the innermost sanctuary of the temple. As the sacred door slowly opens, La Vienne is stunned by the sight before her. At the center stands the goddess crystal, radiating immense holy power. Priest Lucas explains that the crystal once protected humanity from calamities, but ever since Cespia's decline, traces of red corruption have begun spreading within it. To prove herself worthy, La Vienne attempts to channel her holy power into the crystal. The result is immediate rejection. That was well-deserved. Lucas calmly explains that because she has not received a stigmata, she has yet to be recognized as the true saintess. Until that happens, the crystal will never fully accept her. Though furious, La Vienne hides her frustration. She knows another saintess already exists somewhere, but she refuses to surrender. No matter what it takes, she intends to secure the title for herself. Rain falls heavily as Marquis Lucien arrives at a secluded meeting place. Unknown men greet him respectfully and guide him toward the person who requested his presence. Previously, Lucien had doubts about joining their cause. Although the Emperor still holds authority, corruption among imperial officials continues growing. Efforts to establish a new political faction have faced constant obstacles. The men assure him that even House Tercia remains unaware of the plans being discussed. Then, familiar footsteps approach. To Lucien's surprise, the person who appears is none other than Noah. The exiled prince looks healthy and composed, and rather handsome, a stark contrast to the frail child remembered by many. Esther is one lucky woman. Seeing him standing there, Lucien cannot help believing that the curse tormenting him may truly be fading. After exchanging greetings, the two sit together and begin discussing their plans for the future. Elsewhere, Esther receives an unexpected pile of letters from the temple. None of them address her directly as Esther Tercia. Instead, they are written to the owner of the Norden mines. The contents quickly irritate her. The temple requests permission to construct a branch temple on her land. Esther immediately sees through their intentions. When the mine struggled, the temple showed no interest whatsoever. Now that the business is thriving, they suddenly wish to establish a presence there. To her, it feels less like a spiritual endeavor and more like an attempt to expand influence and profit from her success. For a temple to be so shameless is unbelievable. Determined not to allow it, Esther prepares a rejection. As she leaves her room, she unexpectedly encounters Dennis. Looking as refined as ever, he asks whether she has time to talk. The two soon sit together for tea, where Dennis presents desserts he specifically brought back from another town, knowing how much Esther loves sweets. Their peaceful gathering is interrupted when Judy arrives carrying a gift, a rose quartz brooch. Dennis immediately teases him, but the brothers stop bickering when Esther happily accepts the present. I just know Esther's brothers are only sweet to her. The warm family moment comes to an abrupt end when a maid rushes over with news. A guest has arrived. Sebastian of the VL family wishes to see them. We'll stop here for today, guys. Yes, I know you want more. Don't forget to ask for the next part in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching and for your support. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Till the next one.